Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of rapid fire racing action in the one and only UK Sim Racing Multiclass League Season 3, as brought to you and sponsored proudly by Virtual Racing School VRS, and available only on what is the official UK Sim Racing broadcasting channels. In terms of each and every week we bring you this broadcast, whether it be on YouTube at UK Sim Racing, alternatively on twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls as you tune in to round 3 of the championship, brought to you from a rather misty Long Beach street circuit. Located in the US state of California, this is one of a number of circuits within the state. However, whereas most of them will be typified by being traditional road racing circuits, whether it be the likes of what is Laguna Seca or Sonoma, this is a circuit which every year welcomes the fanfare, particularly as known as the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and having played recently host to multiclass racing in IMSA, well, our drivers will be taking on it today in what is this post-round broadcast for your viewing pleasure. Typified by its close walls, its tight corner sequences, but also its extensive straights, it's a unique challenge when it comes to multi-class racing in the simple fact that to go well here, you've got to be patient and smart when you overtake the traffic, or when you choose to go for those overtakes themselves, and get it right and you may come away victorious, but get it wrong, you may find yourself getting caught up in the traffic, or far worse, getting caught in those treacherous walls. And indeed, they loom close, they loom large, but you've got to get close to them in order to get the ultimate pace out of each and every lap. But as we welcome you all to this broadcast, brought to you on what is the iRacing Premier Sim Racing platform, available only on PC. Well, this is a post-round broadcast, and what does that mean? Well, the broadcast itself is live as we talk to you now, and we can see a number of you already in our respective chats, particularly in YouTube there, as we say hello to Cy Anthony, and also that guy Moles, or Ryan Moles, and I hope you guys are doing well. And to all you guys and girls tuning in right now, well, do let us know how you're doing. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi, and also if you're on the Twitch, of course, don't be shy. And don't be shy to say hi on Twitch as well. But as we make our way into this round, we'll be in a post-round broadcast. The racing itself happened as of what was yesterday on Sunday, the 13th of April 2025. We're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday, the 14th of April. What that means is, here in the commentary booth, we do not know what happens, whether it be the practice session that's currently ongoing, the upcoming qualifying session, or indeed when we do go green flag racing. We do not know the result, and we do ask any potential spoilers are not put in the chat, so that way we can bring it as close as possible to the raw live viewing experience. As we also say hello there to Anstis Races in the YouTube chat, and I believe that might be Nathan Anstis, and good evening to you, Mr. Anstis. But as we get ready to go then here at the Long Beach Street Circuit, well, let's give you a recap of the season so far and what we still got lying in wait, because it's a long journey to go still, and we're coming towards the end of the first third of the season as of this round. As we can see, last time out we were at the Fuji International Speedway back on the 6th of April, and our trip to Japan was a rather cloudy and misty one, but also one shrouded in wet weather as well. In the fact that the Fuji circuit, well, the conditions were not expecting to be wet, but they were treacherous. But in that treachery is where terrific performances will lie, and indeed across our classes we got to see some master classes, whether it be in the GT3 class with an absolutely dominant drive from Patrik Thomsen. We absolutely roared his way through to victory in round number 2 of the championship. Alternatively, it was a strategic masterclass from James Ibram in the LMP2 class, which saw him gain ground on what was none other than Øystein Herfjord. And in the GT3 classes as well, we got to see some brilliant driving, and none more so in the Pro class, where it was Kasper Brøckner in his Ford Mustang, who seemed to be in a completely different class. If there was a GT3 Premier class, I think you could put him in that class by himself, given how he controlled the race over the entirety of the distance in the old dudes in cars Mustang. And the GT3 AM class, where it was a UK Sim Racing dominant drive between teammates of Rob Windsor and Matt Edmondson, but Windsor in the end bringing home enough points in order to stay one step ahead of his rival, even though it's Edmondson who took the win. As we come into today, of course, it's round 3 of the championship, and whilst our first 2 rounds have been plagued with rain, well, we're not expecting any rain today, we're just expecting some mist, and after today we'll be making our way to Italy for the Autodromo International Enzo Edino Ferrari on the 20th of April, and then we'll be back to a more traditional road racing circuit in the 4th round of the championship before we do bring the first half of the season to a close. But of course, there's plenty more street racing to come later on this season, particularly in our season finale, which will be back in the United States of America, in the US state of Michigan, for the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle on the 1st of June. And when we do bring the curtain down, we're going to bring it down in the best way possible, and that is one of the tightest circuits in the world. If Long Beach wasn't to be one, well, the Detroit Grand Prix circuit you're going to see is even tighter than where we are today. But along the way, we'll be travelling further into Italy, also back to the US for what will be at Laguna Seca and Road Atlanta, and also Brisbane, Belgium for the legendary circuit, the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. So plenty of circuits still for us to cover. But coming onto our circuit for today then, well, of course, it is the Grand Prix layout of Long Beach Street Circuit, located in what is the shoreline section of the Long Beach City in Los Angeles County of the US state of California. Well, thank you to iRacing.com for this absolutely brilliant circuit map that comes with a fantastic simulator, and what a circuit is. Indeed, many of you may have this stapled into your mind right now. 1.96 miles of asphalt, which our drivers will be roaring the way around, and it really makes its way around some of the more iconic parts of the city, whether it be the fountain section at turns 2 and 3, or indeed the aquarium as our drivers make the way through turns 7 all the way through to 10. But as they roar the way around here, the one thing that will stay true all the way is the fact it's a flat circuit, bar some elevation changes between turns 6 and 8, where you got the rise and fall down into a dip, but beyond that it's mostly flat, and it is a circuit where it's all about getting it as close as possible to those rules as they make the way through the run of the start-finish straight, or the start-finish curve should I say, past the palm trees and in towards turn number 1. A sharp 90-degree left-hander, or a right-angle corner there as they come through that left-hander before the fountain at turns 2 and 3, and we expect the drives to go one wide through there. Well, then they make the way into the double right at turns 4 and 5, 2 corners where it's very easy to take too much apex curb, and if you do, you'll find that left-hand wall gets very close very quick, but avoid that. You'll then make your way back towards the start all the way into turn number 6. We'll see the double left apex at turns 6 and 7, see our drives roar the way on out there, and it's all about getting a nice late apex and straight line in the run up 7, down into turn number 8 before going onto the back straight. On that back straight, we'll see plenty of battling action as our drives romp their way down towards turn number 9. As they come through the right-hander, it's then the sweeping left-hander at turn number 10 before the infamous hairpin bend of turn number 11. I say infamous, you're going to see it in what will be the formation lap. Indeed, when we go starting, it'll be one wide through there. And in racing, for what I can understand, where it be in the GT3, the LMP2, or the GTP classes, you can only go one wide through there, given the steering wheel angle. If you do have to battle side by side, well, it is going to be fascinating to watch how it all unfolds there at the final corner of each and every lap. But as our drives get set to go racing, of course, let's give you a reminder of the rules. And in terms of car setup, this is an open setup series with fuel loads restricted based on car class, and these restrictions being as follows. Firstly, GTPs, they have 80% of the fuel load. LMP2s, they go up to 100% because they're the thirsty V8s, and meanwhile the GT3 class will get 60% of their fuel loads allowed. Qualifying wise, it's a closed qualifying format used as per usual, and drivers have the outlap plus 4 flying laps available to them. Race wise, the race shall commence via a double file rolling start, albeit it should be pointed out that double file will not apply going through at the final corner at the hairpin. They will have to go into single file formation through there, but those who come on out, particularly the GTPs, they will then most likely fan out into what could potentially be a double file rolling start, and we'll see each car class are separated by at least 5 to 10 seconds as managed by the class pole sitter from what is the GTP to the LMP2s and the LMP2s to the GT3s. And remember, we do not exclude what is GT3 AMs from GT3 Pro. So if you are a GT3 AM driver and you put it on pole in GT3 overall, well then you start on pole for the purposes of the GT3 class, not just amongst your peers. And the race shall start for all classes when the GTP class is shown the green flag, so therefore it could be a very, very tasty opening couple of laps, given the LMP2s will get up to tyre temperature very quickly compared to those GTPs. There is one mandatory pit stop required for fuel, however changing tyres is entirely optional, and each driver has one fast spare available. And with regards to instant limits, if our drivers do get to 20 instant points, they will receive a drive-through penalty, and all race tuning shall be conducted post-race. Now, as per usual, and a huge shout out to Virtual Racing School, we do have our continued VRS subscription giveaways, which do occur with each and every broadcast, and thanks to our title sponsor, we will, as of this round, be doing the following 3 giveaways. Firstly, there'll be 1 3-month subscription up for grabs, and it'll be a raffle draw from the round's class podium finishers. So we'll have what is 12 drivers eligible for this based on who finished on the podium in each of our classes. We'll also have 1 2-month subscription available, and that'll be for any driver who finishes this round or gets the checkered flag as classified. This excludes, however, our 3-month draw winner from today, because otherwise they get a double in the prizes, and we want to try and share those prizes out as much as possible. And we will also be doing our classic 1-month subscription giveaway, and that'll be a raffle draw from any YouTube viewers who type VRS in the chat. But don't quite do so yet, for the simple reason we haven't quite turned on the giveaway contest. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1, and it is done. And well, if you are in the YouTube chat right now, do feel free to type in capital letters VRS or Victor Romeo Sierra if you want that in the NATO language. And if you do, we will do the draw at the end of today's broadcast alongside our 2-month subscription and 3-month subscription giveaways, and we'll be announcing who the winners are live on air after the racing concludes and before the post-round interviews. But that's enough rules, regulation and giveaways and everything in between. I know what you're all here for, and so are we. It's the racing in particular. And without further ado, let's make our way back to circuit side here and walk you through our schedule for today. Timed in what is British summertime, that's BST. We know it's all coordinated time +1, UTC +1. As we can see in what we 4 minutes time, or just under that, we'll be going into our 10-minute qualifying session of closed qualifying, after which we'll then head straight to the grid for what will be our 60-minute feature race here in round number 3 of the championship. And goodness goodness me, it is a cool day today. 19 degrees centigrade ambient temperature, 20 degrees centigrade track temperature there. And indeed, these temperatures right now being quite typical for California this time of the year, in the fact that whilst it is very hot in the summer, in what is the spring seasons, it can be very humid. Sometimes you'll see temperatures go as low as about 14, 15 degrees at peak time during the day, and other times you'll see them go to about 24, 25, depending on which way the wind blows and how much cloud comes on over, given the fact that, of course, the state and also this circuit are right on what is the west coast of the United States of America, and with the coast comes some highly variable weather. But one thing that is not variable, I can tell you right now, as he makes one around, is the fact that we've got Ryan Moles here on the grid in what is the BMW V8 LMDH hybrid, as he comes down to the braking zone there for turn number 1, and will quite a bit of traffic around him there as he just navigates his way on through. It picks up huge piece of traffic right in front of him there, as the traffic does step aside for a brief moment. Couldn't quite see who that was, but I get the feeling they might be towing to the pits very shortly. But Mole's showing you exactly what can happen when you pick the traffic at the wrong time in terms of just picking it up there, and that is going to be on the minds of many of our drivers today, in the fact that they'll be worried for the simple reason if they catch the traffic at the wrong time, that could really make or break their race. But he makes his way on around there. Well, the fastest driver right now in the GTP class is Patrik Thomsen, the Williams Sim Racing Academy driver, and well, he is currently your GTP Championship leader. And many arguing that in those wet conditions that we saw in both round number 1 at Portimao and round number 2 last time out of Fuji, that the four-wheel drive or the all-wheel drive nature of that Ferrari 499P proving to be the difference between him and his rivals. But could we expect it to be the difference today, or will we see a different kind of theme today, given that Thomsen, of course, not racing the wet, nobody racing the wet, we've got no wet weather on the forecast from what I'm to understand. But something tells me that Patrik is going to prove them all wrong, or as best he can in that number 1 car. But we'll see what he's going to be able to do, because he will have fierce competition from the likes of Effect Simulations, Austin William Campbell, and well, we do know that the man nicknamed AWC in reference to his initials, well, he'll be going for gold as much as possible, with only 300s between himself and Thomsen in this practice session right now, and it's only a further 700s to Moles in P3 as it stands. But let's not let our GTPs hog all the spotlight, because Øystein Herfjord, meanwhile, the Effect Simulations driver making his way on down here. Well, he's currently your provisional fastest lap in the LMP2 class in practice, and will only by 12 thousandths over Helder Gonçalves. And well, we have seen some very close running between the likes of Herfjord, Gonçalves, Koopmans, and also James Ibram. And Ibram will be looking to try and close the delta on his teammate and indeed his rival Herfjord, knowing that he does have that win from Fuji on his side. But as he comes on through the sweeper at turn number 10, looking to what is the GT3 PRO class, we'll say Anthony is on equal points with Kasper Brøckner right now, but the Porsche 992 driver seems to have a little bit of an advantage here in terms of pace as he makes his way on through at turn number 8 in towards 9. He'll go down the long straight, but he will have that question of Kasper Brøckner, how fast he can go. And well, Anthony keeping a good eye on his rival there, because they are equal on points coming into this round. And of course, two very different rounds, two very different races for the two. And can Kasper Brøckner roar away to victory today? As meanwhile, in what is the GT3 AM class, well, Daniel Pace seems to be man on a mission, a 10th faster than James Conley. And I would imagine the Ford Mustang driver is going to be feeling very confident here, because to be a 10th faster around a street circuit, that is something in of itself. And will he be able to convert that into race victory today, given the fact that his main rivals for his that championship crown, Rob Windsor is here, he definitely is, in the McLaren, but meanwhile Matt Edmondson is not here by comparison, and that's a surprise and not a welcome one to be sure, particularly if you're a supporter of Matt Edmondson. But I suspect he'll be back in later rounds, given the fact that our drivers are allotted 2 drop rounds over the course of the season, every round worth the same weight and it's worth the same race distance. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, more practice is complete, it's time for qualifying, and we will be right back to see who puts it on pole. And we are back. Just like that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for 10 minutes of qualifying, and our drivers will all make the way out there in closed qualifying sessions. What does it mean, closed qualifying, for the uninitiated? If you're new to iRacing or new to the world of sim racing, closed qualifying means that each driver has the circuit to themselves. It's an isolated instance, and they have what is their out lap plus 4 flying laps in order to put in their best possible times. And it gives our drivers an opportunity not to step on each other's toes, unlike what would be perhaps a more realistic qualifying session. But we have experimented in the past at UK Sim Racing with open qualifying sessions, as they're known. We've also experimented with a mixture of class-based qualifying sessions, but for this season we've settled on running with those closed qualifying sessions. And well, speaking of closed circuits, well, right now that gives us a perfect time to deliver some closure on some newcomers to the grid today, and including, well, is he really a newcomer, ladies and gentlemen? Because you look at that Audi R8 Mark II Evo right now, and you're probably thinking, is that a familiar car? Well, not normally, but the door number's familiar. The number 42, it can only be one driver, and if you guessed it, it is Erik Rosev, the Norwegian legend, as he makes his way out of turn number 8 and down towards 9. And while cameraman there shaking in surprise, I think seeing with what regards Erik Rosev making his way on down. But why is he a legend? He's a multi-time champion in UK Sim Racing GT3 League Series, and he's a driver I've had the very pleasure of seeing him crown himself champion. And indeed, I've had the pleasure of seeing him come to that finish line multiple times. A very fast driver out there, very talented driver. But intriguingly, I thought he would be on this grid in his venerable Ferrari 296, but he's decided to go to the Audi R8 Evo 2. A very different style of machine here, albeit mid-engine rear-wheel drive, much like his previous horsepower machine. However, this Audi a lot more aggressive on that rear end, and a car that is very twitchy by comparison with the Ferrari, but lacks a little bit straight line speed by comparison. So Rosev going for a rather different style of car. We wish him the best of luck as he joins midway through the season in round number 3. And it means right now, everyone who's got points in the GT3 Pro Championship will know that this man is going for gold from the outset. But he's not the only new face on the grid, and we wish him the best luck. We also do have new to the grid today in the GTP class. It's a Cadillac user for FX Simulations, and it's none other than John Williams who'll be making his way on around there in the Cadillac LMDH machine, the V-Series machine, and John Williams in the 909 coming on through. And we do welcome John to the grid. And I haven't had the pleasure of seeing John at a race previously, but from what I hear down the paddock, he is a well-respected driver, and we're very much looking forward to seeing what he can pull off here, given the fact that I think right now everyone will be eager to try and take a stroke to what is Patrik Thomsen's absolute dominance, it would seem, in the first 2 rounds. And could Williams, a bit of new blood, inject some new life into that championship battle? We'll have to see. Unfortunately, Thomas Cope not on the grid today, I believe due to personal circumstances, but from what I hear, everything's as well if the Olympus esports driver. With Easter coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks, he's just had to take some time for family. But as Williams makes his way out of the final corner, out of that hairpin, and down the start-finish straight he goes. What's it going to be this time for Williams? His first flying lap will be on the board, and we see those lap times going in. Puts himself P4 initially on a 15.017, slap bang in the middle of the GTP lap so far, and I suspect he'll be looking to do a little bit more. However, where we've got 2 new drivers, we've also got a familiar face. However, he's changed class, and previously he was running GTPs, but now he's moved to GT3 Pro, and that is none other than this man, Christian Maltrek, who's running the Porsche 992 GT3. Now, what does this mean for his championship points? Well, it does mean for the number 4 driver that all of his previous points have been completely written off. They have been scrapped. He goes into the GT3 Pro class with 0 points to his name, and he's got to do it all over again. But thankfully, he's picked the right time to make that change, because he has effectively dropped rounds 1 and 2 of the championship, and now every point counts from this point onwards. Which, of course, does mean for him there's going to be a little bit of mental pressure in the fact he's going to need to deliver each and every round if he wants to become GT3 Pro champion. With Erik Rosev on the grid, who's already making a statement, 3.5 tenths faster than Darren Sharples, I somehow get the feeling right now that Maltrek has given himself an uphill battle, but he'll look to take it on, as any man does know how in that number 4. But as the Porsche makes his way down in towards turn number 9, well, right now Maltrek currently in what is P5 in the class, and only what is the best part of 200ths faster than Nathan Anstis, looking very tasty there for the bottom end of the top 5 in the GT3 Pro, as more times come on in. And as he makes way out the corner, what's it going to be this time for his second flying lap? Well, as he comes towards that time line, I suspect it is going to be a relatively quick lap here. But what exactly is it? Oh, goodness me, it's P2, but immediately Darren Sharp will strike back and says no, it's P3, as they're separated only by half a tenth there. And meanwhile, it's an 18.675 for this man, Erik Rosev, who's going faster and faster by the minute. Meanwhile, in the LMP2 class, Øystein Herfjord is the man who seems to be leading the way so far in the class by the best part of 6 tenths there over James Ibram. But I can imagine that right now these two are absolutely going for it. Ibram, however, has got a lot of pressure from Far and Bamber a bit further back, and it is very close between them. As me on the GT3 AM class, well, it is a McLaren at 720S Evo, and it's in the hands of James Connolly that is going the fastest out of our GT3 AM drivers right now. But many of you may be asking, can we get an on-board lap with one of our drivers? Well, your answer is yes, we can. And I believe we're going to jump on board here with Patrik Thomsen for what will be his final flying lap around the Long Beach Street circuit as he heads across that timing line. So he heads on through, sets a personal best in the fastest lap of qualifying, a 12.075. Now making his way down towards turn 1, braking at what will be about 150 meters of corner apex down to second gear, and now charging his way in towards the fountain section here. Straight line into 2, then turn nice and tight through 3. Back on the throttle immediately, first gear. Spin the wheels up now into turn number 4. Hold second gear. Got to be patient here as he runs as close as possible to the wall, and now over the dreaded bump curve of what is turn number 5. Runs it all the way out there as he powers his way down towards what will be at turn number 6. Onto the brakes he goes, all the way down to second gear, and nice and tight there, but a bit of power oversteer there as he comes up through the corner, brings it sharply over to the left-hand side, and braking there at what will be 300 yards in the apex of turn number 8. So close to the wall on either side as he comes out the corner, and as he roars his way down the back straight here, all the way in towards what will be turn number 9, and Thomsen heading onto the brakes of the 300-yard board. Trail breaking off there, down to second gear, keep the car in the centre road, bring it over to the right, and now open up the left-hander at turn number 10. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, and now onto the brakes here, down to first gear as he hits the brakes, and coming through the final corner. That is a lap of the Long Beach Street Circuit as done by Patrik Thomsen. How quick is it going to be as he heads towards the timing line? Was he crosses that timing line of what will be 141 miles an hour? It's a 1 minute 11.789, and Patrik Thomsen for his final flying lap, absolutely clinical and class there. 2 tenths faster than Austin William Campbell's best lap. Sam Sherwood improves to P3. Darren Norquette squeezes himself on in, but right now it seems though Patrik Thomsen's in a world of his own, as meanwhile Øystein Herfjord crosses the line and goes the fastest of the LMP2s by a further 3 tenths of his previous best, a 1:14.081. Can anyone match him? Eric Rosev comes to line in what is the Audi R8, and as he does so, the sole Audi here on the grid today, well, as he crossed that line, a 1:18.435. That's almost half a second faster than Kasper Brøckner's best. And well, elsewhere in the GT3 AM class, James Connolly and Daniel Pays are both in the pits. They're separated by just under 2 tenths, so close between them. Has anybody else got anything in the tank out there? Well, here's Alex Brown for Sloan Steady Racing as he has a bit of a knock to the wall there, going through 4 and into 5. And well, I had the chance to catch up with Alex in the build-up to today, and he was saying to me, the simple fact is that he's not been looking forward to this round because Long Beach is one of those circuits, like any street circuit, where one mistake and you hit those walls very quickly, and he's worried about making contact with those walls. But he is a learner. This is his first sim racing league on iRace. Indeed, in general, he goes straight on there and parks the car up, and I think he's decided enough's enough, as meanwhile his teammate Richard Jones heads towards the timeline, does improve there, but Jones will have one more lap available to him in the Acura NSX Evo 22, and as he comes out a left-hander and down towards turn number 2 with another 99 driver here, maybe in the 2022 machine, but it's gone well around what is this circuit in reality, and in the simulator he's doing quite well right now. P3 in the GT3 AM class, as he's one of our last drivers to go around the setting laps on the board as he makes his way between the apexes, but we'll have to see what he can achieve here with the limited time that's available to him. He hasn't got long left. He's got 2 minutes on the clock, so he will squeeze this lap in, but what's he going to be able to do over the course of the lap? That's the big question as he makes his way on through what he is at the left-hander there, turns 6 and 7, and then coming in towards 8. Well, right now staying squeaky bum close to the walls, and down the back straight he goes, and as he does so, well, right now for Jones, what's it going to be here all the way to the braking line? You know, it's going to be one of those laps whereby he's improved in what is the middle sector, but he hasn't improved in the first sector, and in sector 3 he's practically the same as what he's been able to achieve previously, so it all come down to what is sector 4 of 4. Through the hairpin he goes, quick direction changes there, and this Acura very good on its electronics, particularly that traction control. Heading towards the line then, what's it going to be for Jones for his final flying lap here? Can he improve from P3? Can he get a 10th on pace to move himself up? No, he can't. He stays where he is, and well, that'll be a bit frustrating for him as Ben Cullen heads towards the timeline, and as Cullen comes on down, currently P6 and LMP2 doesn't improve either. Meanwhile, what about Amit Rajit Ghosh? And well, Ghosh in the end does cross line. He slightly improves there in the blazing red machine and moves into what will be P11 overall, but not any further up in the GTP class, and that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. But as you can see there, Patrik Thomsen has taken GTP pole position over on a 1 minute 11.789, presuming all these laps are valid and there are no penalties applied to these laps for contacts with the wall, or what is off tracks. It'll be contacts with the wall if they have had the lap disallowed. And well, Patrik Thomsen taking that pole position by 2 tenths over Austin William Campbell. Meanwhile, in the LMP2 class, starting P12 overall, it'll be Øystein Herfjord on pole of his class by just over 7.5 tenths. That's an incredible pole lap. GT3 Pro and overall GT3 pole position goes to Eric Rozev, and I believe, in fact, Emil Koopman's still making his way out there, in fact, so apologies for the fact we did disregard a one driver, I think, sort of cool down lap, but Rozev will take GT3 overall pole, and in the GT3 class, it's James Connolly who'll be starting his day P27.8 for the GT3s as qualifying comes to a close, and it's time to head to the grid for our one and only race today. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for what is round number 3 of the championship. It is Patrik Thomsen who starts today on pole for Williams Sim Racing Academy. He is joined on the front row in the GTPs by Austin William Campbell for Effect Simulations Club Sport. On row number 2 will be the combination of Ryan Davis at Empire Motorsport and Darren Norquette for Racing at Forces. We'll then have on what is row number 3 the combination of Sam Sherwood for ProTech Motorsport and John Williams on his debut for Effect Simulations. Matthew Sheraton starts P7 for Aztec Racing, and he'll be in the firm company of Ryan Moles of ProTech Motorsport Motorsport, who, as I understand it, had his lap invalidated, his final flying lap, which was close to trying to match Patrik Thomsen, or at least put him on the front row. So he's going to do it all from what's the fourth row of the grid, and that's going to be a challenge. Joshua G. Wilson starts P9 for Effect Simulations, and from the Swede, it'll then be to the Briton of Xander Hill, who starts P10 for Tiki Simsport. We then come on to what is row number 6, and it will be Amit Rajik Ghosh, who completes the GTP starting P11. Then we'll have your LMP2 pole sitter, and he will start in P12. It's Øystein Herfjord for Effect Simulations. We'll then have what is James Ibram starting in P13. A good qualifying lap there from Ibram. Great start to his day here, and we'll see what he's able to do. And alongside him on row number 7 will be Helder Gonçalves for Tractix Racing, and those two separated by shy of 300ths. We'll now have Tom Farr starting P15 for DDK at our racing team, and after a disappointing day at Fuji, he's got it all to do today, ahead of Emil Koopmans for Effect Simulations Club Sport. We'll then have James Ibram, his teammate, just behind there, P17, ahead of Effect Simulations driver Ben Cullen. And then we'll have what is Simon Bamber completing the Effect Simulations trio there, starting at P19. Eric Rosev will start P20, and he'll start off what will be your GT3 class. He's your overall GT3 and GT3 pole sitter, and a good lap there from the WSR esports driver. Behind him on what will be row number 11 is Kasper Brøckner for Old Dudes in Cars, and he'll be in the company of the privateer of Christian Maltrek on his debut in the GT3 Pro category. Darren Sharp will start P23 for Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of Made for Racing's Jack Barker, who starts P24. And then we have on row number 13, Cy Anthony for Dragon Rezio, and Nathan Anstis for UK Sim Racing Irvine. We'll then have on row number 14, James Connolly, who will be your GT3 and pole sitter for UK Sim Racing Button, and he has got the GT3 Pro driver from Ansi Sports, a Sean Cranny Swash between him and second place GT3 AM driver Daniel Pays for Old Dudes in Cars. We'll now have completing your top 30, none other than Richard Jones in the SAS Racing Acura, and then we have behind them on what is row number 16 in the grid, Simon Hartley for THLF Esports, ahead of John Davis of the Wrong Stuff, and then it will be Rob Windsor, who has a difficult day in qualifying, starting P43. That's the lowest we've seen him qualifying so far this season for UK Sim Racing Irvine. He'll have Alex Brown alongside, who was the best part of 1.7 seconds off of his competitor there, but Brown's still alone for SAS Racing. He'll learn over the course of the race distance. And then starting P35 will be Ryan Walker for Altitude 3M Esport, but he will be promoted to start to the back of what is the LMP2 category as our drivers make the way on through. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, as our drivers make the way on around, well, we're not too far away right now from going green flag racing, and when we do, well, Patrik Thomsen will be leading that field in front. You can already see the GT3s making their way on around very gradually. The LMP2's being very close to the back of what is the GTP class. They will back off down that back straight, but they're already into single file formation here as they make the way on around, and as they do, coming all the way through in towards what will be turn number 11, it'll be to Patrik Thomsen to take us to green flag racing for round 3 of the championship. And it's go, go, go as he roars his way away as quickly as he possibly can. Austin William Campbell just follows him on through. And as they make the way down towards turn number 1, Patrik Thomsen gets a brilliant start there, opening the gap up to half a second as they charge into the braking zone. All coming onto the anchors here, and as they roar the way down, is that Sam Sherwood looking for a cheeky move? He can't quite pull it off there, but I think the will was willing. And as he comes on through the corner, they're all line of stone here into the fountain. All looking safe and secure so far. No real changes to boot. Me on the LMP2 classes, they now start to come down with Øystein Herfjord nailing the start as he's opened up a 1 second gap to James Ibram. Further back, Tom Farr also close behind there. No slow starters in the LMP2 class, but Simon Bamber and Ryan Walker swapping places early on. And into the GT3s, they make the way down, and Eric Rosev's got the start that he wanted as Kasper Brøckner stays close behind. But look at Christian Maltrek already putting some early pressure on there as all the drivers make the way through in the GT3 AM category. James Connolly just in front of Sean Cranny Swash there, and Daniel Pays close behind him as Pays makes his way through turn number 1 in towards the fountain. He goes at 2 and 3, but as he comes around, I'm hearing that Simon Bamber's had a bit of an instant further up the road, and we'll try and get a bit of information on that very shortly. But as we continue to look at Daniel Pays here, making his way up through turn number 4 into 5, and the Old Dudes in Cars driver losing the rear end. It goes round and him very quickly indeed, just dodges the wall, but his race may be over before it's even really started. As meanwhile, Jack Barker and Cy Anthony get absolutely nip and tuck there as they come through turn 6 and 7. And well, we have had the big question all season long so far: is Barker a bit of a demon in the wet, and that's it? Well, the answer is right now, no, he's also a bit of a demon in the dry, because he is chasing after Cy Anthony here, and this is the closest we've seen the two all season, bar what was the last lap at Portimao, where Barker was lapping 4 seconds a lap faster but ran out of time on the final lap. But right now, Anthony under some big pressure for Dragon Rezio as he tries to hold on. Meanwhile, on the pit lane, we've got Xander Hill. I think something's happened to a Hill. I'm not quite sure what's happened. We'll try and get an update on that shortly. But looking from them back to Tom Farr versus Emil Koopmans. Well, right now, Farr trying to keep Koopmans at bay. Koopmans absolutely breathing down his neck. In fact, so close he could reach out and touch through of his rival as we look back from the rear of the LMP2 P4 driver, the DDK Racing team, heading in towards what will be The right-hander of turn 4 in towards 5 they go. Nothing so far for Forrest. He bounces off the apex curb there. And oh, goodness me, what's happened? And that is a car round. Is that James Ibram? That is Ibram. He's gone round there on the exit at turn 5. He's managed to get it turned back the right way, as we do see Simon Bamber closing up. I think Bamber being involved in an instant later on. I think at turns 6 and 7 he had his big spin, but spins are plenty. And right now, heartbreak for a couple of drives, including James Ibram. We're looking from them back to the GTPs. Well, Matthew Sheraton in the Aztec Racing Cadillac. Well, not the Cadillac, I should say the Porsche there. Let me mark my words. There's a Cadillac in front of him, the former John Williams. But right now, that Aztec Racing Porsche. But I'll tell you one thing. If he's not going to win the championship this season, he is going to win the livery of the season right now, because that livery is absolutely looking blazing red hot. There are no accolades, I believe, for best livery. But if there was one, I'd be giving it to him straight away as he makes his way on down there. That is a very distinctive car. And, well, Cameron absolutely loving it, and Cameron women as well. But Ryan Moles right now looking at livery and saying, I want to be past it as quickly as possible, as we ride on board here and look down over the front of the Protect Motorsport 18, and look how close they have to get to each other here. Going through turns 4 and 5, absolutely on the limit. But these street circuits absolutely deliver driving like this as they head in towards turns 6 and 7, the double left, and going onto the brakes here. There's nothing between them right now as they come on around. And well, the point being here with what is Williams only being half a second up front, and then it's Norquette a further 9/10. Well, all these drivers right now 9, that just one small mistake could be the difference between them gaining 1 place versus what is losing multiple places. But Mole's tucked in here right now and taking a look for a move, and I think Mole's not sure where to put the car. I think part of him says, I need to get past this Porsche as quickly as possible. He does seem to be losing some time behind Cheverton, and another part of him saying as well, I can't do that because otherwise I'm going to cause an instant, as he gets so close behind his rival there. And that camera's showing you they are literally millimetres away from touching, but that is how close you run here at Long Beach as they roar their way across that timeline. But Moles right now in that BMW, he's got speed, but he hasn't got enough in the tank to be able to make a move, and that's the problem. You can see he pulls out the toe there, trying again to take a look into the inside of turn number 1, but by the time he's about to take a look, it's too late and he's got to get back in formation. Meanwhile, further back, Rob Windsor had a nightmare qualifying session in the GT3 AM class, and he's the GT3 AM Championship leader. As he makes his way on through here right now, things are not coming his way at all, as I believe there's been a bit of an incident for Ryan Moles as soon as we leave him camera-wise. We'll try and get an update on that very shortly. Something's gone wrong at the fountain from what I'm hearing in my ear, but right now Windsor having no progress in the fact that he's got Simon Hartley in front of him, but Windsor just not moving forward at all. Daniel Payne, of course, having the spins, giving him 1 place, but I think plenty more places there, as we do see our marshals waiting eagerly to have to deal with any instance. As a bit of a run deep there for Hartley. This is going to be the closest Windsor's going to get, but the point is he hasn't had the traction off the corner and has to stay where he is for the time being as they make the way on down the start-finish straight. But as they roar the way on through, well, from then we look to Farr versus Koopmans. And these two close together, they've been close together so far and literally separated at the hip at certain points, but making the way on around. These two drivers absolutely giving each other the beans as much as they possibly can in terms of racing the way around the street circuit. And we'll keep in mind, we've not quite made it to the point yet where we are going to start to see the multi-class racing action kick in with regards to having to negotiate traffic. But as soon as I say that, in fact, we come to Patrik Thomsen, and well, now he's found the tail end of the GT3 field, and he's going to have to start off by working his way on bars what will be none other than, I believe, Daniel Payne, the Ford Mustang driver who started P2 in his class, only to have a spin at this very corner at turn number 5 and put him all the way to the back. But this is where it all begins now, and Thompson's going to play this smart. He's going to have to be clinical if he wants to maintain that 3-second gap he's already carved out on William Campbell. But the problem is he makes his way around the outside. Well, that was an easy one. That's the first fence he's jumped over in terms of hurdles, but now he's got plenty more to do, and he's got to pick the right places to do so. But whilst he does so, I believe we're going to be able to get a replay of some incidents that have happened earlier on, and we're going to start off by happening with what happened to James Ibram. And this was coming out of turn number 4 in towards 5 on lap number 2. He was running comfortably inside the top 3 of the class, loses the rear slightly, just lets go, and then it goes all the way around and into the barrier as well. Well, I think Ibram tried to carry on after that, but that is definitely going to hurt his momentum. And we also had an incident for Ryan Moles, I do believe, and let's take a look at what happened there for Moles. Now this was chasing Matthew Sheraton. We left him at this point and to go on to the rest of the field, but coming into the fountain, what exactly happened? Oh goodness me, getting a bit close, and in the end just a little bit too eager on the brakes. And how? Well, I think, was he clipped on the front bumper? I'm not sure if he was. That was a tiny tab, and if not, how he managed to just spin out the way in time. It was almost as if that was rehearsed, but I can tell you one thing, it wasn't, ladies and gentlemen. And well, without further ado, we're going to go back to some live racing. But how close was that? I tell you, that was incredibly close indeed. One spin at the fountain that I'll never forget. But as we return to Voyager Live Racing Pictures, well, with everything playing out right now, we are on lap number 6. We're not showing a timer in the top centre of your screen, unfortunately, because we do normally have a few timing issues with regards to these post-round broadcasts, but we will keep you abreast with how many laps are remaining when we can. Well, as the racing continues on here, Emil Koopman's now caught up behind James Ibram as they come on through, and the sun starts to shine. It was a very misty start to the day here at Long Beach, but finally the sun has managed to break its way through the inclement cloud, and in doing so, well, that brings a whole new perspective on the racing. We can actually see what's going on a little bit clearer. That's not to besmirch our cameramen. They've done their brilliant in order to try and make sure we can see all the race in action, but it's always great to see when the sunshine comes out. Albeit I think the fog lamps still being on there for some of our drivers' cars. They haven't had the chance to switch them off yet, and I think for simple reason, the fact they're concentrating on one thing, and the most important thing, and that is keeping it out of the water and giving us some good old-fashioned street racing. But as they roar their way in towards turn number 9, well, right now it is Ibram ahead of Koopmans and Cullen in that freeway battle for what is P4 in the LMP2 class. They're all chasing after Tom Farr, the DDK racing driver, who breaks the colour palette there of Effect Simulations for the DDK racing team. And well, meanwhile, Helder Gonçalves just a little bit further up the road. You can see him there in the number 23, and a bit of a lonely P2 in the LMP2 class right now. And the fact that Øystein Herfjord has already booked his ticket 3 seconds up the road. You can see him, there's a pixel in the distance, but right now these two pushing on. Ryan Walker sets the fastest lap of everybody here, and that is a 1:16 in the LMP2 class. He's flying as they head on down, albeit I think Walker right now, well, he's got some clear track in front of him, but James Ibram makes his way on through and also improves. So some pace coming from all the drivers here as they make the way on around. And from them, we now look to Ryan Davies, who here in the Empire Motorsports machine has got Darren Norquette right behind him, and Norquette has to squeeze here as they thread the needle between the GT3s and the walls, and this is where the multi-class brilliance comes on in, and the fact you've got to be absolutely determined to the big lock-up on the front left brake there for Norquette. Oh, goodness me, they tap each other there, but that shows you the steering lock of the GTPs. It is so poor at low speeds compared to anything else out there, and that's why Norquette in the hairpin, and why the GTPs have told if you're going to go for it in the hairpin, you've got to be willing to commit to it. But he's got the minerals, and as he makes way down, he's also got some damage on that GTP, but he's still carrying on here, and he's not giving in. But that's enabled Ryan Davies to open up almost a 2-second gap in the space of one corner and some traffic, and that's how quickly the traffic gives and it takes. But as he makes his way in towards turn 5, well, right now he'll be looking to try and take some time back in due course, as Matthew Cheverton just behind there also gets very close to the back of what is the number 26 GT3, and that being John Davis of the wrong stuff, who does the right stuff in staying over to the side, lets both GTPs go there of Cheverton and also Wilson. Meanwhile, from them, this is James Ibram, the inside of Tom Farr into turn 1. We're wondering when that was going to happen, and well, then it happens, going on to lap number 8 for the LMP2 class, and well, James Ibram moves up into P3 as Farr right now. Brilliant qualifying session, but just not quite on the pace compared to his rivals over race distance. But I wonder whether potentially he's doing quite a bit of early fuel saving here and trying to work out a bit of strategy. Remember, a lot of our racers will have strategists, they will have spotters, and they will be trying to give them all the information with regards to when they need to pit, when's the right time to pit as well, and how can they negotiate the traffic. And sometimes when you are in a pack of cars, oh my goodness, that was very close to the wall there. I thought he was going to go in on the left hand side into the tyre barrier, but Farr going deep, and you can tell on the fact that Koopmans has had a much better run so far, really struggling at this point in the race. I think something's gone wrong there. Has he picked up damage and we haven't seen it? If not, then Farr's pace is just falling very gradually, not dropping like a stone, but not far from it here, and right now he's bouldering to a halt almost in terms of his ability to progress up the field. But as they head out turn number 11 up towards 1, will we see a move from Cullen here as the Effect Simulations train tries to choo-choo its way on through? We'll have to see as they roar the way on down onto lap number 9 in their race. I think Cullen too far back here. If he's going to go for it, it's going to be from very far back, and with no ABS on these LMP2s, that's going to be very brave to say the least, albeit the track temperature is gradually coming up. But we'll have to see, no move there. But from them, looking to what is Joshua Wilson, as Wilson picking his way on past the GT3, sweeping on past Sean Cranny Swash there in the rather infamous NC Sports Ford Mustang in terms of the colour scheme, and into the braking zone he goes, and Wilson in that Ferrari right now trying to chase down Darryl Norquette as they all weave and wind their way through, and coming in towards what will be turn number 10 in towards 11. We can see now Cheverton catching a GT3 at the worst possible time, and meanwhile John Williams watching this from behind and going, okay, I've got to back off there is no way I can make my way through, and being very sensible there, John Williams just waiting behind Cheverton and essentially saying, okay, I've got to let the leader of my battle dictate the pace, and we've got to be wary of the GT3s. And a lot of very sensible racing right now from ways across our classes here. Everyone's seemingly negotiating the traffic very well, albeit as soon as I say that, the commentator's curse is going to prove otherwise, as it normally does. But as Williams makes his way on through the fountain there, taking the back of a GT3 in full view, and I believe that's one of our GT3 AM runners, and we're losing a bit of time versus Cheverton. Cheverton does get the best part of 2 seconds over Williams, but you can see there, Cheverton also dealing with some traffic, so here it all is fitting one way then the other. The traffic gives, the traffic taketh, and meanwhile Amit Rajat Ghosh is now started to close up a little bit on Williams, and despite having a very quiet qualifying session, quite a bit off the pace, number 17 driver now in a much more steady race to say the least, but he comes down in towards turn number 8. Well, from them, let's come back to our GT3s, and this is Rob Windsor all over the back of Simon Hartley. The battle of two McLarens here, well, as close as they could run. The THLF Esports number 16 keeping what is Windsor at bay, and Windsor just not on the pace here whatsoever, and that's not to be rude about him, but this is a real shock. Windsor has been one of the strongest GT3 AM drivers, but it seems like this Long Beach circuit is just not being kind to the 812 driver. It's seemingly just not letting him deliver anything as he goes very deep there under braking into turn number 9, almost going straight on. I think Windsor, whatever he's brought on that car here at Long Beach, it's not working, that setup, or something's not right with regards to the driver in terms of just not enjoying the circuit whatsoever. But from there, Simon Hartley continues to frustrate in the battle for 4th place in the GT3 AM class, which is still good points on the table, but not the points we'd expect Windsor to be chasing. Well, meanwhile from them, Helder Gonçalves right now, well, he has lost quite a bit of time. In fact, Gonçalves, who was running a very comfortable P2 in the LMP2 class, I'm not quite sure what's happened to Gonçalves. I think there might have been a spin involved. We are trying to get some data. We don't have a replay available to us to explain the story, but Gonçalves has fallen a long way down, and he's not taking a pit stop, which would be the other explanation. So therefore, I think Gonçalves' race has gone from good to bad to backwards, and right now he's going to try and fight his way through as Tom Farr, meanwhile, trying to cut his way through there. Some GT3 traffic with Ben Cullen pushing him along every step of the way, and Gonçalves is going to close up to the back of this very quickly as they make their way on through these drivers. But the problem will be here in the fact that Farr now doesn't really have a buffer of any GT3s that he can try to use to his advantage in order to steer clear of Cullen, and Cullen is taking his time with this one. I don't think the traffic's been very kind to Cullen along the way, but Farr definitely, I think, feeling the pressure here as Koopmans, Ibram and Herfjord up front now. The top 3 of the LMP2 class are just very gradually walking off into the distance. Well, Herfjord definitely running away so, but as they come on down the straight, we can see the 903 there coming through, and James Ibram, in fact, getting so close and baiting along Koopmans in the tow. And, well, as the two come onto the brakes, as the old dudes in cars, Kasper Brøckner Ford Mustang that carries its way on through. They're separating at what is P2 and P3 in the LMP2 field from the rest of the LMP2 class. And, well, that's going to be the difference between them as they make the way on through the infamous hairpin. Coming on for and Helder Gonçalves now on the back of that as they make the way on down. But you can see a look at everything, and Helder Gonçalves into the pits. He comes in very early. Now, our mathematics, based on the quick maths we've done, expect that we are looking at about 50 laps, perhaps a little bit less, perhaps 48 to 50 laps for our GTPs out there. So Gonçalves coming in this soon, unless there's some damage on the car. Oh, Turtie's picked up a drive-through penalty for contacts, but he's going to come to a stop. So I think Gonçalves going for a very early pit stop here to repair something on the car. But meanwhile, speaking of repairing things, Joshua Wilson under pressure from what is Matthew Cheverton as they come on through into the turn 9 into 11 complex, and behind John Williams trying to get involved here, but they will be separated by the GT3 overall and pro leader of Eric Rosev. So therefore Williams just missing out a little bit there on the rotation through the corner, and coming on down the start finish straight, roaring the way down. And these drivers right now will all the way on through in towards turn number 1. Wilson are getting a bit of a reprieve there. Cheverton was looking dangerously close to try and go for a move. And when I say dangerously, in terms of threatening for the position, not driving dangerously. And right now, the Porsche 963 driver is the only Porsche GTP inside where's the top 10 of the category. In fact, the only Porsche representing here today. But absolutely going for it is Cheverton, and coming alive here at what is heading towards the end of the first quarter of this race. Because we've done the maths, in fact, we are expecting a 49 laps in total for our GTP, so keep that clock at the top centre of your screen in mind, and the fact we will be looking at 49 laps in total, and, well, they are at the end of what is that first quarter of that number, and right now, Matthew Cheverton absolutely come alive now as he steps up in this race, riding on board with the 390 as it powers its way on down, the number that stuck with him in most series, if not all of them, and, well, keeping in mind close, and we do know this Porsche very strong in changeable conditions, but this is the first time this season we have seen it in what is more traditional conditions in terms of sunshine, or as much sunshine as we're going to get here on the west coast of the USA as the clouds roll back over us. So as I say that, I'm sorry for making the sun go away. I promise you it wasn't intentional. And right now Cheverton getting a little bit of wheel spin there as he came out the hairpin compared to Wilson, but that'll be the four-wheel drive system of that Ferrari, just able to grip up a lot sooner. And it's a very different style of machine compared to its peers with the all-wheel drive system. It is able to get that traction down better compared to this Porsche. As Cheverton goes very, very deep, then just collects it in time, and well, well. That, I thought he was going towards the tyre barrier, but Sheraton stopping it on a dime there. Only he knows how. And as they make the way in towards turn number 4, John Williams looks at this and thinks, okay, now here's my opportunity to try and make a move. But the problem is, if Sheraton can get himself back in the pace as soon as he possibly can, now I think Sheraton is going to feel as though he can pull away a little bit more, but Williams will take a bit of inspiration from that. But as they head on down, well, let's look to sight Anthony as he finds himself caught up behind Darren Sharples. Now, these two very close together at the moment as they make the way on through turn number 4 in towards 5. And two very similar machines, the Porsche and the McLaren. Both cars that do very well on low-speed corners, albeit Anthony there getting a very good run coming out of 5, practically chopping the corner in half. And as they come down towards turn number 6, made to look around the outside. Is he going to go for the cutback here with an earlier apex? Well, the problem is you can't just cut over the apex, because otherwise you'll cut into a wall. But as he heads on down in towards turn number 7, he looks at a move on Sharples, but Sharples, that McLaren just has a little bit more acceleration in second gear by comparison, and is able to pull ahead enough to feel safe as they make their way down. Jack Barker, meanwhile, who was all over the back of Anthony like a bad rash earlier on, well, right now he's got a little bit of a threat coming from Nathan Anstis behind, and Anstis, meanwhile, just watching on there in the UK Sim Racing at 96 as they head through turns 9, 10 and 11 with James Connolly, the GT3 AM leader, right now just enjoying this race, controlling this race, it must be said, and not really under pressure, particularly after what was the instant 4 pace earlier on. But meanwhile, look at this is 3 wide down the back stretch, and that is Windsor versus Hartley. He's going to go around the outside here. That is going to be absolutely brutal on Hartley, who gets reverse Moses manoeuvred by an LMP2 at a GT3 all in a single moment. And how close was that? And Rob Windsor in the end braving it all the way around the outside. I think for Simon Hartley, you've got to imagine in his head, he was probably thinking, okay, I've got a GT3 on my left, I've got an LMP2 on my right, this is only going to go one way if I try to turn in, I might as well back out of it and be brave. Fair play to Rob Windsor, however, he saw the opportunity and said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I think with that, we might just get a replay of that very shortly. In fact, we'll have to wait and see. I think we've got a replay available, and yes, we have. And here's a replay of how Rob Windsor made that move happen. But my goodness, what a move. Now, this was coming out of turn number 8, and what you'll see here on the cameras is in the fact, we've got the distant camera view there. The LMP2 is pulled to one side as Windsor's already got the pace on Hartley coming to the braking zone. So Windsor's committing to it, and Hartley in the end, I think he wanted to battle on the brakes, but with what was, I believe, that was James Acklam's LMP2, the 77 coming on through, there was nowhere where Hartley could go. And in the end, Rob Windsor being the opportunist and making it work. Simultaneously to this, however, we also had to spin up for Jack Barker, and here's the replay explaining what happened there. And this was coming down towards turn number 1, a corner that has struck him previously in GT3 League seasons as he went on down onto the brakes and just goes straight on, misses braking point and takes the escape road there, and now having to show to the world how to do what will be a 3-point turn in a Honda NSX, but we'll save him, well in fact an accurate NSX, we'll save him that and return to the racing. And as we do return to the racing, ladies and gentlemen, still more to come, but no doubt about it, as they're on that lap number 17 as they roar the way and through. And just a reminder, if you are tuning in via YouTube, we do have the 1-month VRS or Virtual Racing subscription giveaway ongoing. All you've got to do is type in VRS, those 3 letters, into the YouTube chat, and you'll automatically be entered into what will be that draw. And well, all the better so if you do subscribe to the UK Sim Racing YouTube channel. You don't get any extra luck for it, but we do appreciate it. And well, as our drivers make the way on down, we'll be doing that draw, of course, at the end of the racing on today's broadcast. But brilliant awareness from our drivers, as that guy Moles says there, and as this race says, a great move indeed it was. But meanwhile, as moves are being made, and we say hello to Mouldy Teeth amongst some others there, including Honer's Racing, and also I think a question there we saw earlier on from Helen Watson, is there a full entry list somewhere? If you do join the official UK Sim Racing Discord, which will tell you how you can do that later on in today's broadcast, you will be able to see the official entry list for what is the UK Sim Racing Multiclass League Season 3. It's only available there from what I understand, and I'm sure one of our admins who might be in the YouTube chat, one of the moderators, can correct me if not. But right now, make no mistake here, as Ryan Walker in what is the Altitude 3M Esports machine, started from the back of the LMP2 class, where he's made some places, but he's got James Acklam absolutely harrying and tarrying him all over the back as they make the way down the start-finish straight. And what Acklam gets close, but not close enough to look for the move. And as they make the way down towards turn number 1, well, there's going to be a GTP on the outside here, and that is going to be one of the Effect Simulations GTPs, I believe, unless I'm mistaken. That is going to be Austin William Campbell, and was down to the brakes there. Well, it is going to be able to give up Ryan Walker a little bit of breathing room as Acklam looks close. He looks very close indeed, but he's not close enough to, and the Scot right now will hold on for a little bit longer as Acklam, we know he's got the pace, And what we also know is he's got a lot of damage on the rear of the number 77 after a spin at this corner in the open lap. So you can see the car jinking around there as he came down off of the raise at the apex. And that's the reason why turn 5 is such a tricky corner. It doesn't look as though it's got a major elevation change, but it spikes at the apex. And as you come down off the apex curb, the rear of the car actually starts to essentially lift off the ground. And it's when that happens that if you're trying to put the power down, the rear tyres with most of these machines, minus the Ferrari being what is front engine rear-wheel drive or mid-engine rear-wheel drive, the key point being they're rear-wheel drive machines, and therefore they light up the rear tyres. But if only one tyre is touching the tarmac, or at least more than the other, then that difference is what sends the car around with the weight transfer as well. And right now Ryan Walker just keeping it cool as he makes way on through. Official photographer, of course, of what is UK Sim Racing Series, including the Multiclass League. And if you are interested in official sim racing photography, he's a very talented man, I must say, and the fact that his photos do look very photorealistic, even at the worst of times. But to be fair, at the best of times, you won't find any better service, and that is that will be Ryan Walker Sim Racing Photography as he makes his way down in towards turn number 1. But as he comes on down there, well, right now trying to keep Acklam at bay as long as he can, but finding a lot of traffic there, and that is going to be the GT3 and machine of Richard Jones, who's not mean of being a 4 on his side. But right now, Jones just enjoyed his race, and 9, there's not really a place to let anyone go until they come out of turn number 5. But Walker's got the hard part here. He gets very close on the exit to Jones, but finds his way through. Acklam, meanwhile, nowhere near close enough, but switches to the inside here, so decides to put his way through. But Acklam, I think, not quite seeing there was an opportunity there. I think not recognising that Walker was perhaps too close, or perhaps playing it safe then, recognising they were too close to the back of the GT3. But either way, they stay as they were, as I believe we had a bit of a moment for one of our drivers there. And I think Ben Cullen and Alex Brown might have had a bit of a coming together at that same corner. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can. There is Ben Cullen. Not quite sure where Alex Brown is, if he's there at all. I believe Brown is in the pit lane, in fact, so he might have had an instance separately on circuit. We'll try and understand what's happened there shortly. But right now, Cullen carrying his way on through here, as it is an absolute traffic jam at the hairpin, albeit as they all make their way out, they safely do. They all rotate the corner, and Cullen into the pit lane. So he's got some damage on that LMP2, and he's deciding it's time to come in and get it fixed, and also get his strategy underway, given the fact that we are heading towards the halfway point, given we're expecting 49 laps here today. Looking back to Joshua Wilson as he powers his way down the start-finish straight. Well, Wilson here with Matthew Cheverton still behind. These two absolutely breathing down each other's necks. But right now, Wilson, of course, the leader of this battle, will feel quite safe in the fact that Cheverton's got to get close and he's got to get past as well. It's one thing to catch, it's another thing to pass, as the late, great Murray Walker once said. And well, that saying definitely does apply here at Long Beach, because there's not too many places to go for overtakes easily, I should caveat. You can overtake at most of the corners around here, even at the fountain, if you're feeling brave enough and your rival is aware you're coming. However, it's very rare to see moves there, given how tight it is on entry and how tight it is on exit. But as our drivers make the way on around here, well, right now, as Wilson getting a little bit squirrely under braking there, I think just having a bit of steering input and sliding about. Wilson really struggling here, and here comes Cheverton. He sees an opportunity, and he's not going to blink twice as he goes up the inside in towards turn number 8, and Wilson in the end losing a bit of momentum. But now, will he go for the counter-attack here as they come in towards what will be turn number 9? He pulls out the toe, he thinks about it, but then thinks, no, I'm not close enough, and Cheverton gets that place through consistency. Both these drivers have made some slight mistakes over the course of this opening stint, but that mistake for Wilson proving pivotal by comparison. You see Wilson then notice what he tried to do. He tried to go for the cutback off apex, but just cut it too sharply to the inside wall, mounted the inside curb. And Wilson just losing a bit of momentum there as he grazed the wall slightly with the inside paintwork on the right-hand side of the car. Whilst William Campbell's into the pit lane from what was P2 of the GTP class. So he's been given the call early. And you can see Wilson here absolutely trying to glue himself to the back of Cheverton and not let Cheverton break away. But Cheverton right now running at least P4 in the GTP class on circuit. P5 effective on strategy is where to understand it. But a key move for Cheverton. Up he goes. Ryan Davies, meanwhile, a little bit further up the road, he has the encroaching presence of Daryl Norquette, who's closed up to him as they make the way on down. And a quick thought here in regards to strategy. A lot of drivers might be pitting early and going for the undercut for the simple reason that if you can't make the overtake on circuit, then it will be a situation whereby you've got to try and get the overtake done strategy by pitting early, get a fresh set of tyres on, or at least get the fuel in the car and perhaps 1 or 2 tyres changed, given the fact that I suspect drivers will only change one side of tyres, and it will be the left side tyres that they're going to change any, given the circuit is dominated by right-hand corners, so left-hand tyre wear will be greater, and well, as a result there, you can use that as a way of jumping ahead. but making that jump is easier said than done as they make the way on down there. And the number 85 right now holding on versus Darren Norquette, but Norquette close as our camera rebounds there with the visceral velocity of our racers. But Ryan Davies into the pits. He's decided he's had enough chasing after Darren Norquette and circuit. He's going to do it the other way round. And speaking of a similar situation, Cy Anthony, as he makes his way out of turn number 8, you're probably wondering why he's dropped so far back down the GT3 Pro order. Has he had a mistake? No, he has pitted quite early, and the reason for that is because he was battling for P4 in GT3 Pro versus this man, Darren Sharples. Anthony had been behind him, or at least within a second, for the best part of what had been about 13 laps and couldn't find a way through. So he's gambled by pitting early. And if anybody remembers the great strategic battle between Cy Anthony and Sam Congreve in what was season 7 of the GT3 League, the best part of 2.5 years ago, you'll remember Road Atlanta in the season finale where it came down to that race who was going to be your champion in what was, I believe at the time, unless I'm mistaken, the gold class. I'm sure somebody will correct me. It all came down to that one pit stop in the end, and well, you have to check that broadcast out on the official UK Sim Racing YouTube channel if you want to see how it ended. But I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it came down to a pit stop and 50 metres of braking distance, and that's where I'll leave the story there. You can find out the rest yourselves later on this evening. But as Darren Sharples makes his way on through, well, right now, if he's aware of the strategic battle he's involved in versus Cy Anthony, he's not peeling to the pits. He's happy with the circuit out there. As meanwhile, further back, that's Joshua Wilson with Darren Norquette, and Norquette, in fact, I think, has had a bit of a nightmare with regards to the run around the circuit because he's lost out and Norquette has not pitted. But here comes Norquette back up the inside of Wilson. He's going to go for it here. Wilson turns on in, tries to shut the door, and does just about do so as meanwhile Matthew Sheraton caught up behind a whole plethora of GT3s and LMP2s. It is like the M25 right now if you live in the United Kingdom. For those not in the United Kingdom, or indeed in the US, imagine a freeway that's absolutely gridlocked. Or in Europe, imagine any major motoring road where you've got your top speed limits and how much traffic there is. As Sheraton's going to go free wide and MP2 on one side, he's on the inside. Oh goodness me, they come together as they made the way through. They almost all made it through. It's absolute pandemonium here as that's James Ibram who's been muscled around, and there's contact there with one of the other GTPs. I believe that's the GTP of Alexander Hill that's been collected as well, unless I'm mistaken. And as they all come on through, well, right now they all just about get through, albeit a front bumper missing off of Darren Norquette's car, so they haven't all got through in one piece. I'm not quite sure where that front bumper's gone. It's somewhere out on circuit, and as they make the way through, Darren Norquette right now just trying to stay alive as John Williams has suddenly caught up to all of this, so he's gained massively as a result of everyone just getting caught on top of each other. Norquette's into the pits, he's decided enough's enough, and John Williams will gain a little bit more time here, and well, that is not the way they wanted it to go whatsoever, but that was an absolute logjam of cars there as they made the way through. And in the end, Matthew Sheraton has found his way all the way into P2 on GTP, at least on circuit. I can imagine a little bit of damage and a little bit of cloud hanging over his head after that contact with Aklam. But as they head in towards turns 4 and 5, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But meanwhile, whilst all that's playing out, we look to Jack Barker as he chases down Simon Hartley. And well, this is a P28 overall. It's not a position change in class that's coming in the GT3s, or at least it is GT3 overall, but not for Pro to the AM driver in front. And therefore, they stay as they were for now as they make their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 1. Barker thinks about it there, thinks to try and use the door that was opened by Helder Gonçalves, who practically rubbed against the tyre barrier there on the exit of turn number 1 in order to give himself an opportunity, because Barker is losing time as a result of this. And well, given his moment earlier on at turn number 1, well, I think he's going to be losing a run of what will be a podium finish this race, as much as he'll try for it, and instead he's just trying to get home now and get some good points on the board. But from him we look to Ryan Davies, who has got Ryan Moles behind. These two have both pitted, and Ryan Davies, unless I'm mistaken, he was running in a comfortable P3, and he's actually lost a lot of time versus Moles. Moles, in fact, has gained massively as a result of the pit stop strategy here. Moles was one of the drivers who had a big error earlier on, if my memory serves me correctly. He had a nightmare in terms of qualifying. He started P8 on this grid, and well, right now he is chasing Ryan Davies down. It's the battle of the two Ryans. Which Ryan is going to prove superior, I hear you ask? Well, right now Davies holds on for now, but as he make the way on around, you can imagine here this is very close between them, and Moles is absolutely breathing down the neck of his fellow BMW driver. And as they make the way through the right hand, and Moles, I think, will be very eager to get this move done, because if he does, this will be quite a significant strategic gain. And I believe Davies, at the time before he pitted, was running, if not in the top 3 of GTPs, he was running in the top 5 of the class. So that shows you how much time the ProTech Motorsport 18 has gained by gambling on strategy very early. But unfortunately, a lot of traffic, and that's into the barrier there for what is, I believe, Ryan Davies. He hit the barrier. I did see a car slightly jolt in front. I saw the the brakes have to go on for the number 82 McLaren GT3, and that McLaren being piloted by what is there none other. I believe that's the 829. No, in fact, my eyes do deceive me. That's the 812. Or what is there none other than Rob Windsor that finally peels away. Moles absolutely being as patient as a saint there, as much as he'd prefer not to be, given the fact that Davies there almost having a race-ending hit with the wall. But right now, Ryan Moles surviving that just about, and well, now having to put some more pressure on as he goes around the outside of the wrong stuff's John Davies there as they make the way down the back stretch. From them, we look to Ryan Walker, who's just been passed by Xander Hill for overall position. The LMDH driver in what is that Ferrari, trying to make some further progress, but meanwhile Ryan Walker with Helder Gonçalves behind. Well, in fact, that's not Helder Gonçalves behind. Let's correct ourselves there. That's Amit Rajik Ghosh, the GTP driver, who is effectively a lap up on the LMP2 driver we're spectating here. And it shows you there's shuffling going on even within the class, even within our prototypes. But as they all come through, let's come back to a little bit of calmer moments. Well, I say calm, we come to him, and he's got traffic in front of him. Here's your GT3 Pro leader of Eric Roslev, who right now is dominating out there in this GT3 class. 11 seconds clear almost to Kasper Bröckner, and his pace has not faltered so far. Albeit I think he'll be mindful of the fact that it can happen at any moment in terms of you can go from leading, you can go from being 0 to 0 as quickly as that on a street circuit, even more so on an open road circuit. And multi-class is where you've got to have your wits about you at all times. But Roslev here absolutely controlling this race right now as he's made his way past Alex Brown, who is a lap down there on the GT3s. And as they come down towards turn number 1 here, a long run, well, Roslev over the halfway distance, and he's still got a bit more time to go before he pits clearly, but he's feeling very happy in this car right now, and who can blame him? With a gap like that, he can choose when to pit quite comfortably. But as he makes his way down to that braking zone, Kasper Bröckner, meanwhile, further back, the old GT3 at Ford Mustang driver here for Old Duty Cars. Well, he was the man to be at Fuji, and right now Eric Roslev is the man to be in California, but Bröckner still delivering a very solid P2 drive here, albeit as yet to pit, and we are wondering where Cy Anthony will fit into all of this. We know he's in that fight with Darren Sharples, who is a further 10 seconds back, but how far forward can he come as a result of it? That is going to be the big question we need an answer to. But Christian Maltrek as well, he's gone a bit under the radar here in that number 4, but look at the drive he's delivering here. He had a bit of a nightmare in the GTP class, but right now in the GT3s, he's in familiar territory, it would seem. In that Porsche 992, he is keeping Bröckner honest as they make the way on around through turns 6, 7 and in towards 8. That gap has never gone beyond 3 seconds. In fact, it's slightly creeping down lap to lap, and right now Maltrek within attacking distance, but will he choose to pit sooner or later? That's the question that we're waiting to see the answer to, and my gut feeling says Maltrek is going to pit pretty much around the same time Bröckner does, and the reason for that is, given the gap between them, they are having the traffic come at similar fashion between them. And it's actually working out for both Maltrek and Bröckner, but Maltrek, given he's the chaser here, whilst he won't be the one who'll be able to choose when to pit effect, he's always got to wait for Bröckner to see whether he ducks into the pits or not, and he can react accordingly. When you've got your rival this close, you're not attacking, you're not really fuel saving off him, but you're keeping him honest. It gives you a lot more strategic options. If you're closer, the problem is you're then of that mindset of, do I pass now or do I stay back? And meanwhile, if you're a lot further back, of course, the bigger the gap, the more the traffic can influence and cause that gap to ebb and flow. But the point being here is Maltrek is in a comfortable distance just to be able to keep an eye on his rival, and that is giving him, I think, some confidence for later on in this race. But speaking of confidence, well, in the GT3 AM class, James Connolly, your leader here, leading by 23 seconds. However, hold the phone if you think he's absolutely running away with us right now and putting on an absolute pro performance. He is driving in a very professional capacity, it must be said. However, we should caveat his performance to the fact that the rest of the drivers who were close to it, including Richard Jones, who was P2 earlier on, they have all chosen to pit a lot earlier compared to James Connolly. A lot of drivers going for undercuts here, whereas Connolly, being your class leader, he's deciding, well, I dictate the open road in front of me, I might as well stay out as long as I possibly can and run this fuel tank, so long as I'm not coming up into a lot of traffic. Or the GT3s, they're going to be swallowed by traffic is what they should really be thinking, and Connolly will be thinking that as he has 2 GTPs right behind him as they roar the way down, and that is Ryan Davies with Ryan Moles behind him once again. And well, we come from what is the sedate GT3 world to a much more intense GTP world as we ride aboard and look back from the fishtail fin of the 85 from Empire Motorsport as they come through turn number 9 in towards 10 and 11. Through the hairpin they go, and as they do, well, right now the Empire Motorsport machine gets the better out off the quarter for a brief moment. It's the classical concertina effect as they head down towards turn number 1, but Davies pulling away there, and you see a flash of the lights from Ryan Moles. I think right now trying to get into Davies' head to make him think, have I done something wrong? But the thing is, Davies right now won't be looking behind him, he'll be looking in front of him, and occasionally that left-hand mirror in terms of what will be that potential move that's coming his way. And onto the brakes they go here, coming on through the fountain section, and Moles is close, but he's not close enough to affect a pass. But the problem is they've both pitted, so therefore he can't suddenly pull a strategic move and duck into the pits. That card's been swept out from underneath as Moles almost hits the wall. He does hit the wall there. The car coming loose over the crest at turn number 5, and that shows you how hard Moles is pushing right now. And I think the frustration that's building, the fact he's got the pace to pass Davies, but he's not close enough to getting the move done, and that is a horrible place to be. Let me tell you, when you know that you could be lapping faster, you see again a brief brush with the wall of the exit at turn number 8. Moles isn't just driving fast right now, he's driving frustrated as they head down towards turn number 9. We'll rein it in very soon, we do know that, but for the number 18 driver at this point, the problem is he's losing seconds of time, lap after lap, by being in this situation, and therefore I think he'll be feeling as though there's got to be a way through, but he's got to try and find it. That's the problem, as John Davies pulls aside there in the what is the very colourful GT3 at McLaren, and as they come on down at start-finish straight onto lap 30 of their race, they'll go. Pit stops playing out at Amit Rajagoj in the pit lane. Look at my Conte booth window. We've had a tow to the pits for Zander here as well. Christian Malcharek into the pit lane here, so he's decided enough's enough in chasing down Kasper Brøckner. But meanwhile from him, well, I do believe Sean Swash carries on his way into now P4 of the GT3 class. He's yet to pit, however, so this will be a temporary gain as he makes his way on down and in towards turn number 1. But the thing is, he'll be feeling confident. The fact he's making places, he's having a very consistent race as well. Gets it very close to the wall there on the exit of turn number 1. But to be fair, sometimes you've got to push it to the limit. And as he comes out of the fountain section for Cranley Swash, this is definitely a race where strategy might be what is his bit of crowning glory as he comes in towards turn number 3. As he comes on out of the corners and up towards what will be at turn at 6 and 7 very shortly. Well, from them, Jack Barker, oh my goodness, and Barker goes on again at turn number 1. Turn number 1 is not favouring that 163 Acura whatsoever. What on earth happened there is the question. Well, as Christian Maltrek clears the scene of the incident, and Cy Anthony also does so. Well, I think Barker's had a bit of a nightmare. Can we get a replay to explain? Yes, we can, and here is the replay. And this was coming on down to the braking zone. Now, he was behind Simon Hartley at the time. Did he just miss his braking point? Yes, he does, but he just sweeps the car to the right-hand side and manages to miss collecting the GT3 AM driver in front of him. So some brilliant reactions there for Jack Barker to do so, albeit he won't feel happy about it in terms of his race has gone, but still credit where it's due. He managed to avoid that becoming a 2-car incident. But as we do return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, and coming on back, well, for Barker, it's heartbreak now on a turn 1 that I think he'll be well and truly done with. But as they make the way on around here, we've still got some time to go. We've still got pit stops to come as well. And Ryan Davies right now with Ryan Moles. I mean, we talk about this battle a lot. It's one of our closest on circuit. And well, at Long Beach, you can expect that battles normally do ebb and flow. Sometimes you do get quiet periods, but these two putting on an absolute spectacle. And well, I can imagine any GT3 or LMP2s that the season go past right now, they'll be placing their bets in the proverbial cockpit as to which one of these two is going to be leading this battle by the end of it. But the problem is, with this scrapping between them, Austin William Campbell has served his mandatory pit stop. He's ahead of them by what is the best part, I do believe, of about 8 seconds now. So William Campbell is not within reach for Moles in particular, or Davies to be fair, albeit we do believe that it is Moles who is the aggressor here in terms of the pace he's got under his fingertips if he can find a way through, and therefore it is all about what is the situation here, where if Moles can't find his way through, his race is going to be spent looking at the back of another BMW, and a BMW that really has curbed his momentum all the way through. But credit where it's due to Ryan Davies, and that's not to belittle him at all in the fact that the number 85 driver has absolutely put on a clinical performance of just being in the way. And sometimes when you're racing, that's all you got to do, is he just grazes the wall there coming out of turn number 5. I can tell you one thing, every time I see Lance Sparks fight, it is making up the hairs on my back twitch. I haven't got many left to be fair. I'm practically balding at this point from what is the best part of 5 years of covering motorsport and sim racing. But every moment like that, it is absolutely terrifying to behold as he peels out there with Eric Rosev getting a bit too close, and as they make the way down the back straight, it's going to stay as is for now as they head in towards turn number 9. But looking up from them, let's look a little bit further down the order to GT3s and strategy, in fact. And Darren Sharples is coming out the pit lane. This is important. Can we get a blow view from the blimp camera? No, we can't, because the blimp has gone behind a skyscraper. But as Sharples makes his way on down, where is Cy Anthony in all this? Because Anthony tried to pit to get the jump. He's going to do it. I think they're going to be side by side on the pit lane exit. But remember, Sharples has to go round what will be at the red cone line. And as a result, Sharples does lose out. So Cy Anthony, he gambled by pitting the best part of what was in the end, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, he pitted about 20 laps earlier. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but practice that point, somewhere between 15 to 20 laps earlier, and Cy Anthony has moved up into P4 in the GT3 Pro class, and he's only got Christian Maltrek 5 seconds up the road. That is quite an impressive pit stop and undercut from Cy Anthony. He will be on older tyres towards the end of the race. Presuming some tyres have been changed by GT3 tyres, and again, we believe it'll be the left-hand side tyres, given the fact they have such a short pit stop here. They're not using that much fuel around Long Beach, but the problem is that with Science gaining that place now, if he's got the tyre life to go, how far can he go versus Christian Maltrek? If he can, could he chase down that spot on the podium? And if so, that would get him a little bit close to Kasper Bröckner, but Bröckner, should he finish where he currently stands, will take the championship lead after this round, and well, it shows you how close it is between the two of them. But of course, the usurper, or the man who's completely thrown a spanner into the works of the GT3 Pro class, Eric Rosev, well, right now he's comfortably leading out there. He's the only GT3 Pro driver who is yet to take his mandatory pit stop, and he's not going to pit for as long as he can dare to dream to do so, because he's in control, he's got clear track in front of him, and why would you want to come in as he finally does do that? I think the fuel tank going to the end of its distance on lap number 35 here. Well, lap number 34 overall, but that'll be the 31st lap coming to a close for our GT3s, and Eric Rosev now makes his way on down pit lane, but knowing that he had a minute's worth of time, I think that's going to be more than enough to give him the comfort factor to park on up and be very happy with the way that first stint has gone. It's going to be a short second stint, but a good one at that. Meanwhile, coming back to the LMP2 class, don't worry, we haven't forgotten about them, as Ben Cullen here and James Ibram go toe-to-toe. Well, Ibram, remember, put it on what was P2 in the LMP2 class in qualifying, but right now all the way back down in P8 in the class. He makes his way out and through towards that braking zone. We do have Matthew Sheraton in the pit lane as well, as that's very close. Ackland misses braking point, and hold up a second, that's Emil Koopmans. Koopmans getting collected there, and well, I think Ackland just getting caught out with a number of cars in quick sequence coming out of the pit lane all together and around him, and Ackland's race, it's the, oh no, it's all gone wrong, and Ackland there around at the fountain, and I believe that's Rob Windsor who got collected there as well. So Rob Windsor in a damage what is GT3 at McLaren 720S. Well, right now he's down in P6 in the GT3 class, and his day's going from dismal to disastrous as well. He joins the ranks of Jack Barker, who literally comes up behind him there. That's perfect timing if we could have made it happen as they make their way down towards turn number 6. Well, right now, Rob Windsor, your GT3 AM Championship leader, this is a race that's going to put a huge dent in his championship credentials early on, albeit he will commit it as a drop score, I suspect. But then again, those drop scores, you get 2 of them, but you don't want to try and use them wherever possible. You only want to use them towards the end. But as he makes his way on through, well, Barker very close to him right now, practically touching the rear wing of the car. But you can see the speed difference between the two, and Barker just cannot find a way through at the moment. I suspect that might be due to the damage. But whilst all that goes on, from damaged GT3s to GTPs right now who are trying to charge onwards, well, Joshua Wilson in all of this is still out there, yet to take his pit stop, much like Patrik Thomsen, much like John Williams. And, well, John Williams has closed up to the back of Wilson in all of this. Well, do remember that he was caught up in a very long traffic jam of cars earlier on, and that enabled Williams to gain the best part of 7 seconds in the space of 2 laps. And right now, Williams breathing down the neck of his fellow Effect Simulations driver as they roar the way through turns 4 and 5. And, well, Williams definitely coming a long way in this race, albeit we have to caveat it with the fact that we are expecting pit stops for our top 3 in the GTP class, and that will shuffle the field back up again and reset it to reality. But as he comes on down, it's still a very solid effort from the pair, but particularly Williams on his debut. And as they head in towards turn number 8, well, Patrik Thomsen, meanwhile, let's not forget he's at the very front of the field. He's still flying out there as he goes 3 wide for a brief moment, and pretty much a perfect multi-class image there if you're getting your cameras out, with Ryan Walker in the middle in the LMP2, and then we did see one of our GT3s, but Patrik Thomsen here just negotiating the traffic, and well, doing a very good job of doing so, as I believe that was the Ford Mustang of Kasper Bröckner, the GT3 there, and there he is, the second place GT3 Pro driver, who are right now in a very lonely P2 in class, albeit I say that, he's not lonely. In fact, let me correct myself straight away, because behind him he's got a pair of hungry Porsches. There's one of them, Christian Maltrek, and a bit further back is Cy Anthony, albeit he's going to lose a little bit of time here, because up his inside will go the LMP2 machine there, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that was the LMP2 of Øystein Herfjord, who's running P4 in class at the moment, just making his way past the traffic. But coming back to the fault of Bröckner, and that will in fact hold up a second. This will change the place for Koopmans and Cullen. Those two change. I believe Cullen's had a bit of a moment with the wall into turn number 1, and will that LMP2 is limping along right now as the new fastest lap of the GT3 class, 118.875 for Eric Rosev. Those lap times continue to tumble, but as those lap times tumble, well, let's talk about that gap that's tumbled down here. In fact, we ride on board the dashboard of the Porsche 992 GT3 of Christian Maltret and the Slovakian driver as he roars his way down towards turn number 1. Well, as he comes on down here in towards that braking zone, is he going to be looking for that move this time? I don't think he is. He's close, but not quite close enough. Through the left-hander he goes, and as they do a big sideways drift there from what is the American boat of the Mustang of Kasper Bröckner, and we're coming on through the fountain. It does seem as though the pace is going one way, then the other, and it's going against what is Bröckner right now as Maltret close. Not quite close enough to look for a move here, but definitely thinking about it. But off camera, into the pit lane has come John Williams. I'm also hearing in my ear that after what has been the best part of 20 laps or so, Ryan Moles actually found a move on Ryan Davies. We will get a replay of that shortly, but as an LMP2 politely squeezes its way in between these two GT3s, well, it'll be for a brief moment, and I suspect that might be what is the LMP2 of none other than Øystein Herfjord deciding to pick his way through. Well, that'll be a brief reprieve for what will be Kasper Bröckner. It came a little bit unfortunately for Maltret, but then again, they will close up in due course if the pace can be maintained here by a third place GT3 Pro driver. But from all this, I'm hearing it is absolutely pandemonium going on right now, as in fact, what on earth has happened there? As they come through, well, everyone's going to go wide and deep. They all just make the way around. Have they got the steering wheel locked to avoid it? Oh no, it's all over the side. He does tab Matthew Sheraton, and then you see a quick snatch to the right for what was Darren Sharples, but in the end, able to avoid the scene of the incident, and Sheraton carries on here. I don't think he's got the steering lock to get into the pit lane, but I think we're going to need to get a replay of all the things that have happened here, because that is a couple of incidents in very quick succession that's completely shuffled things around, and Sheraton was having a very strong race, was running at the time, battling for a top 5 spot in the GTP class, and now that's all gone backwards. Ryan Davies into the pit lane as well. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Ryan Davies. He's had to make a second stop. I believe it has been for a fast repair, but we will find out soon enough. Joshua Wilson is now into the pit lane. Here he is making his way down pit row, but as he does so, well, I think we've got a chance to now take a look at what's happened to what is a number of tries, starting with none other than Ryan Moles versus Ryan Davies, and here is the replay. Now, this was coming down into what was turn number 5. Oh, goodness me, Alex Brown getting it wrong, and in the end, collecting a little bit of what was Ryan Davies, and Ryan Moles tapping the rear Davies for a brief moment, but seeing the opportunity, making his way through. So that's how that started and how the move was made. So in the end, Davies just being unfortunate when he caught the traffic at the wrong time, and Patrik Thomsen being on the back of that in the end, and, well, having to really pick the right time to make his way through, knowing that the race lead was at risk, as we did see Matthew Sheraton there as well, trying to make his way through the traffic. But then what happened to Matthew Sheraton a little bit later? Well, we're going to stay with this on the replay all the way, and I'll carry on turn their focus to Matthew Sheraton, and this was in towards what was the turn 11 hairpin as he made his way on in. Traffic aplenty, looks up the inside of Davies. That's not always going to work out, but as he does so, just gets a little bit too eager on the throttle, and in the end get collected by Alex Brown as well, and Sheraton, for all his gusto, in the end it took him nowhere other than the round, and the rest was consigned to the history books. And let's take you back to the live racing. And as we do so, ladies and gentlemen, we'll still some laps to go. We haven't got long left in this race. We are on lap number 40 of what will be at 49 laps from our GTP drivers. The mathematical calculators have been out and they have worked out we're going to be seeing 49 laps to the end. Joshua Wilson, they're going very deep into turn number 10. That's not the line you normally do. Just missing the wall there. Struggling is Wilson for a little bit of grip. Into the pit lane he comes, and will something's damaged on that car. He comes back in again. That's his second pit stop. So pit stops coming aplenty here. Meanwhile, the only driver who hasn't pitted in the GTP class is class leader Patrik Thomsen. If he's trying to no-stop this race, that's going to be sensational, I can tell you that, unless we've missed his pit stop somewhere. But right now, it's definitely one of those situations where Thomsen, I think, is trying to literally take this race all the way to the very end, and if so, well, he'll probably go for a very quick splash and dash on what will be the last couple of laps, but that fuel tank has taken him a very long distance as he makes his way down in towards turns 6 and 7. Where else are the battles to be expected? Well, we are waiting to see the Christian Maltret versus Kasper Bröckner battle, which is a second apart right now, although that brake disc there, I'm not sure if anybody else saw that, a front right brake disc. Let's see as it comes on in to what is the fountain. It's not glowing that time. I thought it was glowing red hot there as he made his way into turn number 1. I wonder where Maltret is struggling with a brake issue on that front right brake, because that is uncharacteristic to see it glowing that red hot. I mean, they will gain a lot of temperature over time, but those carbon ceramic discs, if they're glowing that hot, hot, it means you are putting a lot of force through those brakes. And I can tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, because my driver coach, when I used to race in the GT3 League, and Jack Barker being my coach, used to say to me that I had a habit of literally turning my front brakes into Swiss cheese. But as they make the way down, enough about me, more about our drivers. Well, right now, the number 4 drivers, he makes his way through. I think Maltrek is just hitting the limits of what he's got left on those front brakes in that Porsche. He's pushing hard, but perhaps that hardness on the car right now is coming back to haunt him as he makes his way on through turns 10 into 11. But as he comes on through, we do have some battles elsewhere. Simon Hartley and John Davis getting close together here for P3 in the GT3 AM class. And well, John Davis has avoided all the carnage, he's avoided all the chaos, and he's looking for his first podium of the season in GT3 AM right now. If he can keep Hartley behind, and well, Hartley as well, to be fair, both of these drivers, they both started very far back in their classes. They've both had races, very different tales. Hartley's been involved in a little bit of chaos at some points. Meanwhile, John Davis, he's been around it, no doubt about that, but he's avoided getting embroiled in it. And as these drivers make the way through, well, either one of them would deserve this podium, but right now, for John Davis, I think he'll be absolutely clutching at this, hoping he can bring it home, given the fact it'll be an absolutely brilliant performance, and it'll be one of the tales of the day at Long Beach. But as he comes through turn number 9, Hartley's going to try and be the pantomime villain and steal it away from him, but to be fair, he's got his own story of recovery, so therefore both of them would deserve it. And coming on through, well, behind them, that is 2 GTPs having to play the patience game there, and I believe that's 905 of Austin William Campbell being followed by John Williams. They make the way on down. In fact, that's not John Williams there, that Cadillac. In fact, yes, it is John Williams. I will correct myself again, just try to discern what the other one was. I'm not quite sure, but as they make the way on through, we'll tell you one thing, that's the 908 in fact, and that would be the 908, well, it is a little bit further off in the order. It's Joshua Wilson who's effectively a lap down in the Ferrari. Well, we got there eventually in the end, identifying who it was, and very, very different fortunes for the drivers there. But John Williams on course for potentially his maiden top 5 of the season in his first race of the season. And well, a good performance there as Patrik Thomsen has taken his pit stop at long last. He took it on the previous lap, and well, it was only 7 seconds stationary in the pit lane. That goes to show you how efficient he's been on fuel. He's literally been sipping that fuel all the way over the race distance. But from them, looking to what is their none other than Emil Koopmans, was they come on down. Well, one thing we do have to notice here, hold up a second. We've had a change of LMP2 leader. James Ibram's now leading. What on earth has happened to Øystein Herfjord in all of this? Øystein Herfjord, who was just running away with things, was they make the way on around. James Ibram has taken the lead of this, and that is going to have huge ramifications in the early days of the championship. I think we might be able to understand what's happened very shortly, but there's been a toe to the pits for Øystein Herfjord, and well, as Ibram makes his way down the back straight, we're going to get a replay, ladies and gentlemen, and here it is to explain what happened to Øystein Herfjord, who was leading comfortably. And this was coming down the start finish straight into turn number 1. Surely he's not going to go straight on into the barrier here. Goes on the brakes, turns into the corner, a bit too much speed. Oh no, in the rear, just lets go. A little bit too much momentum, a bit too much gravitas. And in the end, it's grounded in reality for Øystein Herfjord. It was back to the pit lane, but that is heartbreaking given what a strong race he'd been running. But let's head back to your live pictures. And well, with Øystein Herfjord's race coming to an abrupt halt there, and it can happen to anybody with only what was a quarter of the race to go, if that. And well, as our drivers make the way on through and in towards turns 4 and 5, well, right now, James Ibram will absolutely be thinking to himself, well, it's unfortunate that his teammate has had that instant, but at the same time as well, where one falls, another will rise, and thankfully for the 903 driver, he'll be thinking, it happens to be me. But as they come on through turns 6 and 7, well, Emil Koopmans, meanwhile, chased after the final spot on the LMP2 podium, and how things have turned around. We said earlier about the Simon Hartley-John Davis battle. I think they have actually swapped places. We haven't quite called that on camera, unfortunately, but Simon Hartley has moved into P3 in the GT3 AM class. We can confirm that off camera, but right now this is the fight for the final LMP2 podium spot, and Emil Koopmans putting pressure on Farr, but he's going to have to reach out a little bit more here if he wants to get the move done. And one thing we can tell you has been the story of the day, Farr hasn't had the pace, but he's definitely been very consistent out there, and that might explain why he's running in P3, albeit they also had drivers who had to tow to the pits and had to retire from this race. But as far as things have come, Tom Farr has driven to a pace which feels comfortable to him, and sometimes that's all you need to do at a street circuit like Long Beach. Just keep it out of the walls and you will be rewarded. But now he's going to have the taste of having to try and make his way around an LMP, well, it's a GT3 that is having a very slow run on through turn number 10, but that's because of the speed of these cars. And Koopmans there goes deep. Farr still tucked in mind, I believe that is one of the McLarens as they make the way through it. Meanwhile, whilst that's happened, elsewhere, I believe there's been a swap of position for third place in the GT3 AM class. Simon Hartley's had a spin somewhere, and that has enabled John Davis to get back into position. And whilst the drivers make the way down, Farr feeling feeling safe right now, but you see Koopmans there absolutely chasing him, raging red hot there in what is 904 as he roars after the 171. And Far's now going to have a little bit of traffic in front of him. That will be Anthony, what is the fourth place GT3 Pro driver who's just running a race on his own right now. And Far having to find his way through, but the problem is going into turn number 5. That won't do. So he's going to lose all that space he gained over Koopmans. He cuts one way and Far follows into his wheel tracks. Now come down towards turn number 6. A flash of lights there from Koopmans to say to Anthony, look, I'm coming through. He goes in with his elbows out there, does Koopmans. He does not want a GT3 in his way. Anthony's not too pleased for that. You can see a flash of lights there. But Koopmans right now will send him the bit. It will send him a check in the post of the damage to that GT3, and as they come on down the back straight, roaring on through, Koopmans has only got one thing in mind right now, and that is I am hunting down that 171 at whatever cost it is, and who can blame him, to be fair? He is absolutely eager to try and take that podium spot given what's happening, and as they make the way through, roaring the way around in towards the braking zone for turn number 11. Well, right now Emil Koopmans is close, but not quite close enough yet. From them, meanwhile, there's more battling to come in the battle for P2. In fact, they're just in front of our foreground picture there, as that is Christian Maltrek breathing down the back of Kasper Brøckner now as they come in towards the braking zone here for turn number 1. And for them, given our GTP leaders on lap 46, there will be that lap plus another 3 to go. So there's not long left in this race. If we had to give you the amount of time remaining, it's 5 minutes left, if that, right now. But Christian Maltrek there or thereabouts. But can he use the traffic that's coming up behind him to help him? He's going to have to be tactical here. He's got to think, when's best for me to try and let the LMP2 go if he can make a bit of a call on this. And in fact, I think he's going to pull to the right gradually here. Try to say to Far, look, just go up my inside and get out of my way. Does so just about. Koopmans, of course, will now be breathing down his back, and he's going to go up the inside immediately. So that works out for Maltrek just about. Meanwhile, for Brøckner here, Far's tucked in behind, but the thing is, this is going to work out better for the Mustang driver, is it? As Far's very cautious, and by being this cautious, when he's actually going to lose some momentum. But intriguingly, Koopmans gets close. He gets a bit too close as they come down the back straight. Immediately duck back onto the racing line there. So Koopmans just a little bit too eager out of turn number 8, I get the feeling. And as a result, not able to use that to his advantage. But to be fair, Koopmans absolutely roaring red hot right now as he comes on through turn number 11, gets the better exit practically there as they make their way down the start finish straight. And well, here is your leader looking aboard, but as you look back from the front of the car, well, that is how close Koopmans is getting right now as they power their way down the start finish stretch. They'll have a couple more laps of this to go, but this battle is absolutely on a knife edge. Well, as they come down towards turn number 1, behind them, that GT3 battle for what is the second place, the G3 Pro class has not changed. That gap's opened up to 1 second, in fact. But Koopmans so close there as they come through the fountain, weaving and winding the waves through the walls. And remember, they are going through there at the best part of 60, 70 miles an hour on corner exit. It's so close. You see Koopmans riding over that apex curb there. That LMP2 set up to go over the curbs a bit more aggressively compared to Far's 171. But as they go down, oh goodness me, it's late on the brakes. A tap to the rear descends when it's Far around. Far goes all the way around. Emil Koopmans immediately, however, being a gentleman racer, stops the car and lets it roll deep into the corner to let Far retake his place. But Ben Cullen comes on through. Cullen takes the place here, moves up into P3 in the LMP2 class, but Far and Koopmans resume, and there it's a three-way fight for third place. Or is it, with the damage they've got? Surely at this point it's going to be the situation whereby they haven't got the speed on the straights to stay with Cullen, but Cullen just suddenly inherits third place in LMP2 class. You couldn't make this up, and that is a surprise and a crazy one, to be sure. We won't get a replay of that given how deep and close we are to the end of this race, but right now, surprises as they come, I think that's going to be one for the books. But as they make their way on around, it will meanwhile coming out to that same corner. Look who's caught up to sight Anthony, despite the strategy, with Darren Sharples. He now finds the shoeers on the other foot, and now he's the man who's got to try and find a way through. But the problem is he won't be able to use strategy to do so because that pit stop went long ago. He's going to try and do it on circuit. You see Anthony covering the middle of the road, and suddenly sees what is one of our GTPs making its way through, and that's going to be very hair-raising for Anthony. Here comes Sharples. Does he go for it? No, he doesn't quite as they make the way on around. That was the 908 there of what is Joshua Wilson making its way through, but Sharples takes speed to the inside into turn number 4. You can't go for it there, says Sai, and as they make the way towards turn number 5, the number 27 Porsche holds on a little bit longer, but Sharples, he had a golden opportunity. I don't think he's going to have another one anytime soon, because meanwhile, your race leader is now to the final lap. Here is Patrik Thomsen in the number 1, making his way through the fountain. We're not going to have a splash right now, but he might afterwards get how hot it's going to be in that Ferrari 499P, and as he comes in towards turn number 5, he's got a bit of traffic in front of him, but with a 22-second lead I don't think he's going to be thinking about anything other than just get it home at this point, as professionals do. And as he heads in towards turns 6 and 7 right now, Thomsen putting on a clinical performance, but going back to the shuffles, adds the battle. They will get one more turn of the circuit before all's over, given the fact that the leader is on the back stretch right now, so they've got no risk of being intercepted. So they will give it one last bout as they make the way onto what will be for them lap number 45, onto that final lap that Eric Rosev has already taken them onto. But as they head down the start-finish straight, will be, well, ladies and gentlemen, we come back then to your leader as he makes his way through what is the final corner. Race number 1, it may have been P2, but in race number 2, it was a win, his first of the season, and he makes it 2 wins out of 3 now as he weaves his way to the line. He knows what he's done, and Patrik Thomsen is your winner here at Long Beach and GTP. And overall, we've got a sizable amount of time before the next GTP comes through. But meanwhile, for James Ibram, it's been fortune, it's been favour, but it's also been a story of keeping it out of the wall. And for the Effect Simulations driver, he takes LMP2 victory and moves his championship campaign forward in a brilliant drive. We'll then come to your second place finish at GTP, Austin William Campbell, another solid result for him. And Eric Rosev on his return to the grid, it's an Audi that has dominated today and takes GT3 Pro an overall victory. What a drive from him. We'll then have what will be, in a due course, your P2 LMP2 car of Helder Gonçalves in a race that had ups and downs, but in the end he brought it home with second place in LMP2 class. P3 in the GTP class goes to Ryan Moores, and an absolutely brilliant drive for what is the Briton. And then we will have, I believe, what is Richard Jones comes home second at GT3 AM ahead of John Davis, who held on to his first podium of the season. And what a drive from John Davis there. Congratulations to him. But we still got what is one more drive to come through, I believe, and that is going to be your GT3 AM winner. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He heads towards the line, and for James Connolly, it's his first win of the season at GT3 AM. And today, all he had to do was keep out of trouble, and that's exactly what he did in the 46. Well done to him. And we're off camera. We did also have Kasper Brøckner hold off Christian Maltrek to was second place in the GT3 Pro class. There he is parked up. I don't think he can quite believe it. What a battle between those two. And Ben Cullen in the end took third place in the LMP2 class. What an end to his race as well. I don't think he's going to quite believe it. He managed to steal away that third place from Emil Koopmans and Tom Farr when they had their coming together right at the end. But sometimes that's the way it goes at Long Beach as they push each other around. And well, for Ryan Moles, he got it done in the end versus Ryan Davies. But I think for the number 18 drive, third place at GTP, he'll be happy with it. But I think he'll also be thinking, if he managed to get that qualifying lap together, what could have it been today? At least P2 potentially. Could it have even been a challenge to the win versus Patrik Thomsen? Well, that's a what if question we'll never know the answer to. But as the race comes to a close and all the drivers make their way back to the pit lane, what we do know, of course, is the race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And let's take you through those results, ladies and gentlemen, because what a race we have seen here today at what is the city of Long Beach in the US of A. And as those results come up on screen here, well, as we can see their overall results firstly, and we'll just walk you through the overall positions, particularly the podium finishers in each class. And as we can see, Patrik Thomsen, your overall and GTP winner in the end for Williams Sim Racing Academy by 23 seconds. Our Effect Simulations Club Sports, Austin William Campbell. Ryan Moles finished P3 there for ProTech Motorsport. Ran off the podium in a solid drive, but 9 today. It was a tough race and indeed didn't start the way he wanted it to in qualifying, and qualifying was the key component here. Indeed, all the drivers knew that going into this one, with John Williams completing a race to P4 in his debut on the grid for Fixed Simulations, but a very strong drive there, and started towards the bottom end of the GTP top 5, and in finishing still there, but enjoying the race. Darren Norquette, P5 for Racing Forces, a qualifying session that went well, but in the race, a front bumper that came flying off at one point really did put a damper on it, no doubt about it, and it was a lap down in the GTP class to what was Matthew Cheverton taking P6 for Aztec Racing. That late instant cost him dear, that spin at the hairpin, and what was a very solid drive from the Aztec Racing Porsche driver all the way up to that point. Ryan Davis was P7 for Empire Motorsport ahead of Amit Rajit Ghosh, the privateer there, taking P8 practically a little bit further from where he started, and still coming to terms with what was the number 17 Ferrari, but doing a solid job at doing so, with Joshua G. Wilson and a frustrating day at P9 overall and in class for Effect Simulations. It was a top 10 finish overall, but more importantly for him, an LMP2 win for James Ibram for the Effect Simulations Club Sport team. 2 laps down was the LMP2 winner compared to the GTP winner, where Helder Gonçalves close behind him for Track6 Racing, but in the end it was Ibram's race to dictate after all the drama and chaos that happened to Øystein Herfjord. Ben Cullen rounded off the LMP2 top 3 and the podium with it for Effect Simulations in what was a complete surprise to him, I think, but still a surprise he'll be very happy to put his hands on. And then coming onto the GT3 class, P17 overall was your GT overall and pro winner of Eric Rosler for WSR Esports. Well, he may have been off the grid for a couple of seasons, but that has not served to dampen his spirits whatsoever, and the Audi driver carrying on from where he left off in the 42, and what a drive from him. Old Dudes in Cars, Kasper Bröckner held off the challenger Christian Maltrek late on in the race to take the runner-up spot in the GT3s and also in the Pro class, ahead of Christian Maltrek on his switch from GTP to GT3 Pro, where it's a switch that's definitely been a fiery one, because immediately leaping onto that GT3 Pro and overall podium in the number 4 Porsche. Then coming down to what was the GT3 AM category, and as we can see there, James Connolly, P22 overall, and taking a P6 in the GT3s overall. Solid drive there from the McLaren driver, UK Sim Racing button, but most importantly for him, the only GT3 AM to finish on the was the lead lap of the GT3s, and a brilliant drive there to GT3 and victory for the 46 driver. Sandwiching between himself and Richard Jones was Nathan Anstis, but Richard Jones there, P24, your GT3 AM runner-up there, and the slow and steady racing driver once again missing out on his first win of the season, but again putting in a brilliant performance to make sure he's on the podium, and the Acura driver will be happy with that and know that he's building himself a very solid foundation for as this season goes on. It was then Sean Cranley Swash for Anti Sports before we came on to John Davis, the wrong stuff driver, who took his maiden podium in the GT3 AM category, and what a drive from the 26 driver in the end. Didn't put a foot wrong today, and well, whilst his team name may be the wrong stuff, his race was definitely made full of the right stuff compared to those around him. But then unfortunately, we do have to come on to some commiserations. I do believe there were retirements for Simon Hartley, James Acklam, Alex Brown, Daniel Pays, Xander Hill, Simon Bamber, and Sam Sherwood. So 35 starters in the grand total of what was 28 finishes, unless I'm mistaken. Unfortunately, we don't have full DNF classification data. But with that, ladies and gents, we now come on to the individual class finishing positions. And as we do look all the way back up to the top of the GTPs, well, Patrik Thomsen there for Williams Sim Racing Academy. Absolutely flying the banner high there for the team ahead of Effect Simulations Club Sports, Austin William Campbell, choosing exactly when to pit right at the end of the race, and number 1 driver really living up to his door number. But to be fair, Austin William Campbell did everything he could to hold on to P2, and a solid drive once again, but knowing that win is not coming yet, and he's going to have to find that extra few attempts if he wants to find that win. But he held off Ryan Moles for ProTech Motorsport, and in the end, Moles made his charge through, but it was too late in the day, and indeed qualifying, just keeping his race winning aspirations at bay. P4 was John Williams for Effect Simulations ahead of Racing Forces Darren Norquette, and then we did see Matthew Cheverton a lap down for Aztec Racing ahead of Empire Motorsports Ryan Davies, with Amit Rajat Ghosh, Joshua Wilson for Effect Simulations, completing the finishers, and we had the retirees of Tiki Simsport Xander Hill and Sam Sherwood for ProTech Motorsport. Coming on to the LMP2 class. And here the story was all about what was that late turn in the tail, and Øystein Herfjord relinquishing the lead with that late retirement to the pit lane to James Ibram, the Effect Simulations Club Sport driver, taking victory by 21.5 seconds, and in the end just avoiding the drama. And Helder Gonzalez, meanwhile, Tractics Racing, an early error, plus also a pit stop that didn't quite gain in the ground he wanted, but still it gained him a P2 in class, and he'll be happy with that. Ben Cullen taking a late P3 for Effect Simulations. In the end, all the chaos unfolding around him, and he managed to avoid getting caught up in it. And one of those drivers who got caught up in it was Emil Koopmans for Effect Simulations Club Sport, who in the end finished 9 seconds clear of Ryan Walker. But then again, Walker, who started from the back of the LMP2 field to take a P5 at Altitude 3M Esports by just simply being in the right place at the right time. He won't be too upset about that. If anything, I think he's going to be proud in that 297. It was a lap down to Tom Farr for DDK Racing Team and Øystein Herfjord for Effect Simulations Carbon, and it was James Acklam and Simon Bamber who unfortunately had to retire from the race due to separate incidents. Then coming on to the GT3, starting with the GT3 Pro category, and here we could see after 60 minutes of racing, Eric Rosler for WSR Esports taking victory by 31.5 seconds in the end. I mean, the margin that Kasper Bröckner took victory at Fuji had, I think Eric Rosler looked at that and said, you know what, I think I might be able to try and do better. Well, he chased it and definitely put on a brilliant performance there, with Kasper Bröckner in the end having to fend off the charge from the privateer Christian Maltrek, and doing so just about when the number 4 Porsche driver round off the GT3 Pro podium. It was a further 3 seconds to cite Anthony for Dragon Rezio, and then we did have Darren Sharples a further, what was 1.5 seconds back. The top 5 very close in the end, outside of our winner, and then we did have a lap down to Nathan Anstis for UK Sim Racing Irvine ahead of Anti Sports' Sean Cranley Swash and Jack Barker, last of our GT3 Pro finishers. Turn 1 catch him out not just once but twice, and a difficult day for the made for racing driver. Lastly, coming on to the GT3 AM class. And James Conley really was the man of the day, finishing a lap ahead of the rest of his competitors for UK Sim Racing Button, and congratulations to him on what was a well-deserved victory ahead of Richard Jones for SAS Racing, and the Wrong Stuff's John Davis taking that maiden podium in that brilliant battle between himself and Simon Hartley, where in the end, Hartley got it wrong and Davis got it right, and between the two of them was UK Sim Racing Irvine's Rob Windsor. Simon Hartley retiring 6 laps from the end, and I believe maybe classified, not 100%, in fact I don't think he's going to be classified there, and Alex Brown and Daniel Pays having their own retirements, and particularly for Pays, a early incident cost him dear, and a separate incident later on seeing the car have to be retired from the race. But what a race it was, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And there was drama, there were heroes, there were villains, there was everything between here at Long Beach. And well, from round to round, the racing gets better and better, no doubt about it. But of course, what it does mean is that we do now have the question of what is, firstly, before we cut to our post-round interviews, needing to do what is our giveaway draws. And well, as we now make our way away from circuit side, let's come on to those draws. And there is the wheel on screen. And what we're going to do firstly is do our 3-month subscription draw. And to remind you of this was for all of our drivers who finished on the podium in their respective classes. So 12 entrants go into this one, and you'll see them there now on the right-hand side of your screen. And what I'm about to do right now is spin the wheel, and let's find out who is going to be your winner of today's 3-month VRS subscription draw. And let's get to it. And well, in the end, he couldn't quite sneak his way into P2, but he has snuck his way into a 3-month VRS subscription. It's Christian Maltrek who will take that subscription away with him. Congratulations to him on that. And now coming on to what will be our 2-month subscription, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen. And as we are going to see coming on to that, so this is going to be for any driver who finished today's race, excluding, however, of course, what will be Christian Maltrek, because he has just won the 3-month subscription reward. So therefore, we are going to remove his name. For transparency, we do it here on screen so you can see it happen. So Christian's gone, and therefore we do have the best part of 32 entrants here, so anybody could win it. And here we go. And James Ibram will take it. Well, he took a surprise victory in the LMP2 class, and he takes a surprise 2-month subscription away of him as well. Congratulations to him. And now lastly, of course, is the big question of who is going to take away the 1-month subscription from the YouTube chat. Well, there it is on screen. And well, entries are now closed. We've got 7 entries. Rusty Racing, Satinder Diensa, Helen Watson, Sir Bottle Job, Honest Racing, Anstis Racing, Alex Brown. We choose a winner. And it is Anstis Races who has taken the win on the 1-month subscription draw there in the YouTube chat on the UK Sim Racing YouTube channel. So congratulations to Anstis Races, and we will be in touch with you in due course with regards to how you can redeem that 1-month subscription. Or indeed, all of our winners will be. They'll be contacted by the UK Sim Racing administration team. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean now it is time for us to get ready for our post-round interviews. They'll be coming up in approximately what will be 5 minutes time, and we will see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today we're going to be hearing from two of our prototype drivers, starting from the Premier class of the GTPs of Ryan Moles in the number 18 for ProTech Motorsport, and then we'll come to our LMP2 winner, James Ibram for Effect Simulations Club Sport, who definitely had one of those races that was entirely unpredictable, and in the end ends up with the unpredictable result of taking class victory. But joining me immediately then is none other than Ryan Moles. Good evening to you, Ryan. It's been some time since we've spoken, but what a challenging race for yourself at Long Beach. I mean, you had all the pace, and that P3 at the end demonstrated it, but it looks though everything was sacrificed in the qualifying session.
Hi, Paul. How you doing? Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been an interesting season for me so far. Not about round one, round two didn't compete, and yeah, this one yesterday was very challenging and very frustrating. Like you said, qualifying didn't go my way. Brief touch with the wall on the final lap, and yeah, it put me further down the grid than I was expecting because in practice my pace seemed pretty good. And I just expected a little bit better than myself for qualifying.
Well, very frustrating one, no doubt about it. And like you say, you've definitely had a very good season so far. And here, I think it was a missed opportunity, really, like you say. But what was wrong in qualifying? I mean, Long Beach is one of those circuits that it doesn't give, it only takes from you. And I suspect it must have taken something from you in the qualifying session.
I think it's probably just the way the tyre model is now. It takes a lot longer for the tyres to get up to temperature. So I think the fourth lap was always going to be my good lap in a way. The first two laps I just crawled around, try and get temperature in. The third one was just like a bit of a safe lap just to get a time on the board. But then it was just to go all out on the fourth, and yeah, it just got a bit too twitchy coming out one of the corners, and we just the rear just hit the wall ever so slightly. And as soon as that 0x came up, I just knew it was time to park it.
Well, a 0x cost you the ultimate lap, so you had to do all the hard work starting P8 on the grid. And in the early stages, it was line astern, no real places gained. But as the race went on, you started to pick up places, but something tells me strategy was just as important as it was trying to make the moves on circuit.
Yeah, I think I was always going to pit early, but I did end up getting a meatball quite early on. I think after that spin I had with the contact with Cheverton into the fountain, a couple of laps later, the car was a little bit all over the place, and I did hit the wall again, giving me wheel damage. But it was still, at that time, it was early, too early to pit. So I had to wait another 2 or 3 laps, and then decided to pit. And luckily, it was enough to fill the tank up and go to the end.
Well, fortunate situation there where you were able to come on in and not have to commit to what would have been effectively a double stop situation. But as it went on, and as we headed towards the end of the race, I mean, you're in a situation where you found one other Ryan right in front of you, Ryan Davies, and he wasn't budging.
Yeah, that was the second frustrated part of the race. To be honest, I didn't expect to claw that much time up, because I definitely with the standings I saw that he was up there, he was up in P3, and when I was out behind him, I thought, has he had a slow stop? Have I made up that much time? But then as the race went on, like I say, we was kind of just closing that gap to the other cars, and I thought, well, let's just try and keep this going. Let's just try and put him under a bit of pressure. Got a bit fortunate with the GT3. I mean, at the time, I didn't really know what had happened. But I just thought, well, I've got clean air now. Let me try and push on and see where I can get.
Well, definitely a situation that worked out for yourself, and taking that P3. I mean, after that, there wasn't long left in the race, and I suspected a part of you, as you crossed that finish line, thought, you know what, it's the best we could get out today, but also a missed opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm very happy with the podium. I did say before the race I'd be happy if I could get a podium this season. So to tick that off in round 3 that's pretty good. Something's really clicking with me with this BMW this season, and I'm really enjoying it. So I just hope this can continue with the future races, and you never know. Let's hope for a win.
Oh, well, we definitely look forward to seeing you try and chase that maiden win of the season. And like you say, you do seem to be clicking very nicely with the BMW. But looking ahead then, next time out, we make our way to Italy for the first time this season for what is the Imola circuit. How are you feeling for a visit to the chicanes and straights of Imola?
I think it'll be interesting. Imola's an okay circuit for me as well. It's quite narrow. So plenty of overtaking opportunities though, so it should be better than this week. I'm hoping it's going to be dry as well. I've not had a chance to look at the weather. But yeah, we'll see. Let's hope we can have some fun and be up there again.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing it. We can be right at the peak of the field once again, battling for the podium, if not victory. But just before we do let you go, Ryan, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I want to give a shout out to Sherwood. I mean, I know he didn't have the best race today, crashing out early on. But yeah, he's been very supportive. He's wanted me to get back into this league, and I'm grateful that he told me to because I'm enjoying it again. To you, Paul, as well. It's always good to hear your voice again and to watch the broadcast. You do an amazing job, and just to you, Chris, in general, it's been good this season so far. So long may it continue.
Oh, 100%. Ryan, long may it continue as well. Seeing you on the grid, giving it your best week in, week out. We love to see it. And thank you for joining me this evening in the interview room. Unfortunately, it couldn't quite work out in the end, particularly in qualifying. But still, what a way to muscle your way to P3. And we look forward to plenty more in the weeks to come.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Paul. Catch you in a bit.
Will do. All the best. So hearing that there from our third place GTP driver today, Ryan Moles, and it all came down in the end to qualifying, the initial disappointment and challenge of the day. But there were two sources of frustration in the race as well, in the fact we saw that spin only moments ago in the fountain, so we didn't quite catch on camera at the time, but we got to see it there. That spin plus also some contact a little bit later on, also putting a dent in. And then the other frustration, of course, coming out behind Ryan Davies and being stuck behind him for so long, but not realising at the time, as he mentioned there, the fact that he gained so much time in the race. And that shows you how much pace the ProTech Motorsport BMW driver had brought to the table here at Long Beach. And it only compounds more and more what could have happened if he had had that fourth qualifying lap work out the way he wanted it to. Well, we'll never know, but what we do know is he's got a lot of momentum, he's clicking with this BMW, and when he goes to Imola, he'll be looking to right the wrongs of Long Beach, and that's going to be something which we look forward to seeing. But now coming to our next interview, ladies and gentlemen, we come to James Ibram, and we look forward to talking about the LMP2 winners race. But without further ado, we're going to hear about it now as he joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, James. And well, I mean, nobody expected it. I know it's 24 hours after it happened. I didn't expect in the commentary booth a win from nowhere in the LMP2 class. You must have been absolutely grinning like the Cheshire Cat when you crossed the finish line.
Yeah, it was good. I was quite pleased with that. It was unexpected. I went in with not very much practice, and not really knowing what kind of times I needed to set, and was a bit disappointed with qualifying. I definitely had pace to be a little bit higher up the grid, definitely not top on the front row. It was definitely still a bit further back, but felt like the pace was there, and I just grew into the race and got I think the tyres, I managed to gradually build them into it, sitting behind Emil and Tom Farr, and it just enabled me to just build up the pace rather than just go straight into it, which I think helped a lot.
Almost definitely interesting, you should say, with regards to not knowing really where the pace was in qualifying and not having as much time to practice. I mean, from an outsider's perspective then, an interesting circuit to pick where you haven't perhaps had much practice as you would like, Long Beach. It's a very unforgiving circuit, but what was your sort of mentality? So qualifying, obviously, you're still finding the pace. You go into the race, but what are you trying to do in order to sort of find that pace to sort of build yourself up as the race goes on over the 60 minutes?
That's pretty much it. It's just slowly build up the pace, just little by little, seeing where others are braking, keeping an eye on the deltas when I come out of a corner, just really small gains here and there. No, braking 20 meters later, it's braking maybe 1 meter later, and does that go better? Yes, no, don't do, if it doesn't, don't do it again. If it does, let's try it again next lap, see if it's the same. It's just small little gains here and there, but I think the biggest thing in that race was don't crash, really.
Oh, 100%. The first thing first at any street circuit is you don't want to put it in the wall, and we saw you avoid those walls. But thank you for taking us through sort of what you're trying to build up over time and how the pace came. And with that, we saw some very dicey moments from yourself, one of which we're seeing on screen at the moment, which was your pursuit of Tom Farr, the DDK Racing Team driver. He may not have had the pace compared to where some of his rivals, yourself included, were, but he was a very hard driver to get past.
I'd like to say yes. He raced very cleanly, but I genuinely I got past Emil, and I think 2 laps later got onto the back of Tom, and I think it was literally immediately as soon as I knew I was close enough, I was like, this is it. So it wasn't like no discredit to him at all, because I think he was struggling a little bit with his pace early on. I definitely did notice that he got back into it later in the race. I think just in the early stages he might have been struggling a bit with his tires or something, maybe they overheated or I don't know, but it wasn't too. I was expecting it to be a lot harder to pass, but I think I just in that early stages, because I took it so easy on the tires, I just had a lot more pace in him at that point, and it allowed me to just, yeah, as I say, just kind of cruise up to the back of him and get a really great exit out of the hairpin like I did to Emil, and just sort of send it, and that was it really. But it is really hard to overtake here, so I was quite surprised to be able to make those 2 moves so quickly.
Now that's absolutely fair. Some quick moves from yourself as soon as the opportunities presented themselves. And then later on, it looked as though the race was coming down for yourself, making further progress. And then towards the end, we suddenly find you go from being second place into lead, albeit at the expense of your teammate.
Yeah, that was gutting. I was actually gutted for him. I was pretty much in the mindset that it is second. There was no thoughts in my mind were like, yeah, we can challenge for a win here. I was, I brought the gap down to probably about 4 seconds. And then as I'm exiting the pit lane, I see him in the wall, and I know that I've got the lead, but I think there was until that point, I was not expecting that at all. I was probably, maybe I could have narrowed the gap a little bit, but I think our pace was so similar at the end that it probably would have stayed at 4 seconds had he kept it out of the wall. So I was gutted for him like massively, because he'd done such a mega race until that point, like keeping it on track. I know the setup he was using was a little bit on edge in comparison to the one I was using. And it just, I think eventually it just got to him, which was just really unlucky.
Well, it was unfortunate for Øystein, but fortunate for yourself in some respects. And as that checkered flag wave, you've taken a victory. And what a victory it was in the end, and making it, I believe, back-to-back victories now following Fuji last week, and taking the championship lead for the first time this season by 4 points. I mean, it's looking close, but that's also got to feel good. We're a third of the way through the season, and now you're at the front.
Yeah, it feels great to be leading, but it's, as you say, it's only a third of the way, so ultimately at the moment it means nothing. It can all change. I could have 3 bad races in a row, and Øystein and Helder could easily do some really solid performances, while I have some really bad races. So it's definitely far from over. I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the season. I think it's been, the quality of driving, especially in this race, was so high by everyone involved that, I have to commend it. Like, everyone's racecraft was truly, well, from my experience. I know that there were some instances where that may have dropped, but in general, I felt like the racing was really good. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Oh, I'm 100% with you on that. And speaking of the rest of the season, next week we head, well, in fact, this coming weekend, I should say, we head to Imola for what will be our 4th and final round of the first half of the season. How are you feeling for a trip to Italy?
I love Imola. Imola's my best circuit historically. Not to gas myself up, because this is probably now when I DNF, but on iRacing stats, it's the circuit I've won the most out of. It's where I've gained the most I rating. So I'm very much looking forward to Imola. It will be good. I'm very excited for it. Tough track to overtake on though, so I expect the real sort of overtakes to happen due to traffic or strategy. I don't really see much happening on track in class, at least. You pretty much have turn 2, which is kind of turn 1, And that's kind of it, really. I guess there are some other points that are a bit more unconventional, but that's your best one, and you have to really focus on getting a good exit out of the last corner to make that happen. And with the reduced toe in the LMP2, it's even harder. You have to be like, a third of a second back, and to stay that close through the last two corners is quite difficult. So I think it will be very much dependent on qualifying and then strategy from there on.
Well, wise words said there by a wise man, and we look forward to seeing whether you're able to pull off a brilliant result at Imola, as the statistics suggest you may be able to. But James, just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast this evening?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to the whole team, and obviously Øystein had an incredible race, and I feel I'm gutted for him that it ended the way it did. So I'm hoping that he can bounce back and have a quality race next week at Imola. And obviously, Effect Simulations, go to effectsimulations.com for all your sim racing needs. There you go. I've done my plug. And you as well, Paul, for a great commentary. I'm looking forward to actually watching it back. I didn't manage to catch it because I was doing another league race tonight, which ended terribly. So I'm looking forward to having a bit more enjoyment.
Oh, well, James, it's been a pleasure to have you join me in the interview straight out of another leagues race, but still, that commitment, I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you for joining me once again, and well done on a brilliant drive to class victory in the LMP2s. We look forward to seeing how well you do at Imola and whether you can pull off a brilliant result there. But until then, all the best, my friend, and see you this coming Sunday.
Cheers, Paul.
So hearing there from James Ibram, the LMP2 Effect Simulations Club Sport driver, who not having enough time to practice compared to what he'd like, and in the end going into the race knowing it was all about finding the pace over time. We did exactly that, and what a way to do it in the end, picking his way up through the field in the early stages. And we did see him make that move on Tom Farr, who proved to be a bit of a fly in the ointment for other drivers, but not necessarily for James. And then as well making his way into that second place, only to be closing on his teammate and rival Øystein Herfjord down to 4 seconds. And a moment with the wall for his teammate was what enabled James Ibram to take the lead of the LMP2 class and run it away to back-to-back victories in class at the checkered flag at Long Beach. Going into Imola, he reckons it's a circuit he'll go very well at, and the statistics do not lie with the fact it's the circuit where he's had the most success in his iRacing career. But will that be the case in round number 4 of the championship next Sunday? Because statistics are one thing, but the reality can be a very different thing when we put pen to paper and continue to write the story of the championship campaign. But we look forward to seeing what the 903 brings to the table in Italy. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for this evening. You've just heard from James Ibram for Effect Simulations Club Sport in the LMP2 class, the 903 driver. And previously, we heard from the number 18 from ProTech Motorsport of Ryan Moles. Congratulations to both of them on their fine performances this evening. And thank you to them both for joining me in the interview room. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now give you an update on the championship standings after 3 rounds. And of course, these are provisional, subject to stewards' inquiries from round number 3. And we start off with the GTP class. And as we can see here, Patrik Thomsen, and now with his 2 wins back-to-back and also a huge 30 points haul and a second place finish in the season opener, we move further and further into lead on 93 points. And I do love that progression there. 30 points in round 1, 31 in round 2, and now the full 32 in round number 3. He can't get any more than that, but he can try to maintain 32s all the way across the board. But the Williams Sim Racing Academy Ferrari driver is absolutely looking unstoppable. Austin William Campbell sits in P2 at the moment with 4 points deducted from Fuji for a post-round incident review. Well, therefore, he's got some way to go to chase down Patrik Thomsen and Thomas Cope. Not on the grid today, so therefore no points scored, and this will become his drop score, and those will be activated, I believe, after next week. Joshua G. Wilson sits in P4 for Effect Simulations ahead of Ryan Moles. The two of them there, only a point between the two of them, and well for Moles, missing at round number 2 with 0 points. That becomes a drop score, and then the number 18 driver's got to move further forward. Amit Rajit Ghosh in P6 there, 4 points ahead of Matthew Cheverton, and then it's Nathan Foster and Ryan Davies, the Empire Motorsport drivers, who have missed rounds respectively over the last 2 rounds, but the point is they're practically level on points with Darren Norquette on 34 points, but behind Ryan Davies based on result countback, completing at that top 10. And John Williams, meanwhile, in his debut, moves to P11 immediately, with Andreas Nordenhoff, Joe Newman, Xander Hill, and Haroldus Jatatas completing those with points, and yet score any points. Sam Sherwood with his early retirement, unfortunately, today, and John Eddowes. We then come to the LMP2 class, and here we can see James Ibram leads now by only 3 points over Helder Gonçalves, and well, that gap small, and as he mentioned earlier, not taking anything for granted, and it's way too early in the season to feel confident. The Tractics Racing driver splits the two Effect Simulations drivers, but Øystein Herfjord falling in the P3 after that premature end to his race, but still he'll know there's plenty to recover next time out at Imola. And then you have Tom Fart on 70 points there, wasn't on the pace day and seemed to be struggling, but still his struggles, he's been rewarded for them and is in P4. 10 points clear of Ryan Walker, whose consistency continues to reward him for Altitude 3M Esport, ahead of Ben Cullen. And then we have Emil Koopmans, Justus Stakiokas, Simon Bamber and James Acklam completing the top 10. And then Dan Blackwell and Brandon Hay yet score any points, P11 P12. Coming on to the GT3 Pro class, it's Kasper Brøckner who still leads by 4 points over Sight Anti, finally breaking the deadlock and moving into the lead for Old Dudes in Cars, with the Dragon Rezio driver sitting a bit further behind, and Jack Barker, a frustrating day today. I suspect he'll commit Long Beach as a drop score early on, and the Made for Racing driver sits a further what is 9 points afield. UK Sim Racing Irvine's Nathan Anstis moves into P4 ahead of Darren Sharples by 2 points, but the Old Dudes in Cars driver there, 9 points went away today on strategy, and he won't let that happen again at Imola. Sean Cranny-Swash sits in P6 there, further 4 points off, comfortably clear of Eric Rosev at this time. And the WSR Esports driver, with rounds 1 and 2 being his drop scores, he'll now be absolutely hustling to try and close up on the top 6 and very quickly roar his way after that top 3 in particular, after that dominant drive today, taking the full 32 points. He's ahead of Andy Archer, with Christian Maltrek on his debut in the GT3 Pro class. Well, he's in a comfortable P9 at this time, but 9 points to come. But notice there, his penalty points are not removed from the GTP class. They stay with him as well, so he's already got a bit of a deficit of 4 points off and only 22 to his name. Tom Weston completes the top 10 ahead of Andrew Fairley and Jack Osborne, and yet score any points, Matthew Morris, Josh Boot and Jeff Griffiths. Then coming to what is the GT3 AM class, last but not least, and it's Rob Windsor who leads, but after a dismal end to his day at Long Beach, well, it wasn't too dismal, he still picked up a good haul of points, but I think he's going to be a bit gutted there that he wasn't quite with it today, and therefore 5 points away from his James Connolly and rising fast. From the two UK Sim Racing drivers, one from Irvine, one from Button, you come to Slow and Steady Racing's Richard Jones, who really is living up to his team name at the moment, as another good point to his best of the season so far in an individual race. He moves into P3, ahead of James Foster, who right now really leads the rest of the chasing pack, ahead of Daniel Pays, who had a nightmare start to his race at turn number 5, but still picking up some points for seeing that checker flag. And Steve Hughes, not on the grid, sits P6, ahead of the Wrong Stuff's John Davies, who gets a huge points haul there to move ahead of Alex Brown. And then from the SAS Racing drive in P8, it's Matt Edmondson and Simon Hartley who complete the top 10. Michael Mice, it's P11 at best the rest of Satinder Deensa, and then we do have on no points so far Shaminda Deensa and Aaron Beaver. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there wanting to know more about the UK Sim Racing community, about how you can be on the grid or at least find out what our ongoing and upcoming series are, or a little bit more about the history of the community, well, firstly, we do recommend you go to our official website, that's uksimracing.co.uk, where there you can find out all that information and also how to join the beating heart of the community, and that is the official UK Sim Racing Discord, invite link available on the website. Alternatively, if you're more of a social media person, you can follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UK Sim Racing _. We can stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements in UK Sim Racing, and also the trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams as they compete in other series, and of course official iRacing events. But also we must take a moment to say a big thank you to our title sponsor for this season, and that is Virtual Racing School. Their web address, vrs.racing. Established in 2016, Virtual Racing School aims to help sim racers get faster through the provision of top-tier software and hardware, which draws upon the knowledge and experience of both real-life racing drivers and sim racing professionals. A VRS subscription, extremely popular with sim racers around the world, provides an intuitive solution for combining data analysis and coaching, which may be used by racers at all levels to take their racing to the highest level. Meanwhile, the VRS Direct Force Pro line of wheelbase and pedals offers the cutting edge in sim racing hardware as used by more professional sim racers and real-life racing drivers than any other brand in the world, including Formula 1 sensation Oscar Piastri. So if you want to get faster, be sure to head to vrs.racing today to find out more. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, if you are some more racing, we've got plenty more to come, because this coming Sunday, the 20th of April, we'll be live from circuit side at the Autodromo International Enzo Edino Ferrari, but you all know and love it and refer to it as Imola typically, and that's where we'll see the first half of the season brought to a close. And across our classes in GTP, it is looking to be the story of Patrik Thomsen. Can he carry on to make it a turkey of victories, or 3 out of 4 so far this season? In the LMP2 class, well, James Ibram comes into that round with back-to-back victories. Can he make it also a 3rd in a row? And in the GT3 PRO class, everything is mixed up now with Eric Rose have been on the scene. But can his rivals strike back and reassert their championship form? And the GT3 AM class, well, the absence of Matt Edmondson and Rob Windsor on a difficult day in the office means it's all to play for there as well. So in a round that's going to be absolutely hot and intense in terms of the racing and also track temperature as well, you never know. Well, it's going to be a round you won't want to miss as we cap off the first half of the championship season. Join us then on the 20th of April. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit and a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.